50 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling this gold find an incredible opportunity. Call 1-800-973-3077 and you are guaranteed a $10 gold Liberty coin minted by the U.S. Mint in the 1800s, but with extremely limited availability. Call now. These gold Liberty coins from the 1800s are still in uncirculated condition. That is history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-973-3077. Call now, and you'll receive a free American Coin Collector's Bonus Package, a $40 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-3077 now to secure your $10 Gold Liberty coins dated from the 1800s before they sell out. That's 1-800-973-3077.
Don't miss Clean Car Month now at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Get Superior Coverall Tire Shine 2 for $18. Get details at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Listening to this station on your free iHeartRadio app could put $5,000 in your pocket.
No way! Are you kidding me?
Open your app and search this station to be instantly qualified for the cash.
Yay!
Thank you so much.
Download the free iHeartRadio app for all the music, radio, and podcasts you love.
Sorry, but we actually have a wait list for our Monstera.
Shaw's greenhouse is really bringing in the green.
We can't keep snake plants in stock.
She needs a construction manager to build on her roots and grow.
We could add a whole section for ferns. Here we'd have dahlias, dahlias, and more dahlias.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
O'Reilly.
Did you know 1 in 4 car batteries is weak and needs to be replaced? O'Reilly Auto Parts will test your battery for free. If your battery needs to be replaced, our professional parts people can help you find the best Superstart battery for your vehicle and budget. Don't wait. Get your battery tested for free today at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm 6ABC Action News meteorologist Brittany Boyer with your latest forecast. We are stuck in the clouds on this Thursday. Temperatures still remaining a little bit on the cool side with a high of 64 in Philadelphia. Any sun we see is going to be very brief this afternoon. The clouds stick around for tonight. Temperatures fall to 50 in the city with some patchy fog developing. And then we have our first round of rain arriving later in the day on Friday, which will be steady at times, and winds pick up with a high of 63.
This report is sponsored by eBay Motors. You do anything to keep your vehicle happy. Let's make sure it stays running smoothly. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, the right parts are just a click away. When you see the green check, you know that part will fit. Get the right parts at the right prices. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
I'm Howard Mackler, founder of Innovation Refunds. If you own a business and still haven't applied for the payroll tax refund, we want to pay a licensed tax attorney to see if you're eligible. Go to getrefunds.com.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Your home for Villanova basketball is WDAS and WD273D, Fox Sports Radio Philadelphia.
Oh my God!
Now's your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Cash. That's cash.
Enter now.
You heard the man. Get over to foxphlgambler.com and enter the keyword for your chance to win $1,000. Once again, foxphlgambler.com.
People forget they're hiding. The girls smile.
The first Eastern Conference semifinal matchup is set, and it is an unlikely one. You're tuned in to the Daily Ticket, Fox Sports The Gambler, loaded Daily Ticket today. NFL Draft today, first round. Already rumors of teams that could possibly move up in the draft. And of course, one of the teams on that list, a very short list, but on that list, your team, your town, your Philadelphia Eagles. Lots to go over today with the draft. We are going to have plenty of guests on to talk draft, including at 3:20, Devin Jackson of the Philadelphia Inquirer. He does all of the college content, betting content for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and he's done some great draft stuff as well. You can follow him at RealD_Jackson. He'll join us at 3:20 from the NFL Draft, I think. Also, 4 o'clock, Sean Barnard at Sean_Barnard1. He's going to join us at 4. We're going to talk NBA playoffs with him, and of course, the Eastern Conference semifinal matchup between the Knicks and the Heat that has been set up. And then at 5 o'clock, Joe Tansey. We're going to have him on for the full hour because there's too much to talk about with Joe Tansey. He said he could talk an hour of NFL draft. I will challenge him on that, but we're also probably going to get into the Union. Not the best result in the first leg of Champions League against LAFC. Still, though, they were able to at least get a draw in that. But the Philadelphia Union have some work to do in the second leg on the road in LAFC. So we'll talk with Joe about that as well. But I first want to start off with the NBA playoffs last night. Jimmy Butler again comes up with heroics, and Jalen Brunson leads the Knicks again to another win against Cleveland, and they are moving on. And now we have an interesting matchup because these two teams aren't supposed to be here. It was supposed to be Milwaukee. It was supposed to be Cleveland. Milwaukee was supposed to be the best team in the Eastern Conference. Cleveland was supposed to be the dark horse in the Eastern Conference. Ousted. Done. But I think the conversation shifts a little bit too far into Jimmy Butler being this amazing playoff player. And look, he's doing great. He's averaging over 30 points per game in the playoffs. He has been the best player in these playoffs right now. But you got to do it again. You did it in one series against Milwaukee. Do it again. Keep up this level of play. And I think the Knicks, now this is a crazy thing to think about. And I think the Knicks are the favorite on this series line. So I don't know if this is a betting proposition here, but I do agree with the Knicks being the favorite. They're the better team. They're the more complete team. And they can match Jimmy Butler's intensity, his physicality, his style of play. They can match that. Milwaukee wanted no parts of it. I don't know what was going wrong with Milwaukee, what the mindset was. I don't know what was happening with Milwaukee. But I do know that Milwaukee did not look ready for that series. The injury may have had something to do with it for Giannis. He did not have a great series, didn't shoot well from the free throw line in the final game of the series. They didn't seem like they wanted any parts of that. And they got out-coached. But I feel like the Knicks can match that. Jimmy Butler, the two-way player, the grinder, who is also an all-star caliber player, can score at the rate that he can. There's not many players like that. Constantly undervalued, constantly underrated, constantly never talked about in the way that Giannis has talked about, Jason Tatum has talked about, Joel Embiid has talked about, Nikola Jokic, Kevin Durant, even Kawhi Leonard. Jimmy Butler never enters these conversations, and for good reason, because the regular season, he doesn't have the same type of numbers those guys do, and I think those guys have more talent than Butler, but continually in these playoffs, he becomes a different player, and he beats those guys. Now, I'm not saying this player is better than Butler, but I can't think of a better team after that kind of series that Jimmy Butler had. I can't imagine a better team in the next round to take on the Miami Heat than the Knicks. And I know it sounds crazy because the Knicks haven't been to the second round in a decade. This is the first time in a decade they will be in the second round. They haven't made it out of the second round even further than that. And the best player on this team is Jalen Brunson. That's a guy that everybody thought should not have gotten a max contract in the offseason. Dallas had no problem letting him go, which seems like a mistake now. No problem letting him go. And then when the Knicks got him, is he really a max player, or are they just trying to throw some things out there just to get a decent enough player to be their point guard and to at least try and build around Julius Randle and RJ Barrett? And all Jalen Brunson has done is become the best player on the Knicks and has helped them beat Cleveland, who everybody thought was a dark horse. Cleveland's a better team than Miami. Cleveland had an all-star in Donovan Mitchell, and Darius Garland's a great player. Young team, inexperienced team for sure, but a better team than the Heat. And the Knicks have proven they are better than Cleveland. They were better. That's not just a Cleveland in the bright lights. They didn't have the experience, and that's the reason why they lost against the Knicks. Well, the Knicks don't have much experience either, like I just said. And they got completely outplayed, outcoached. And a lot of the things that Miami did to Milwaukee, the Knicks are doing the same thing to Cleveland. And yeah, there's a little local flair to that. It's the Villanova Wildcats DNA. It's the Jay Wright type of mentality that he has given his guards for years. Jalen Brunson is also that grinder, plays tough defense, plays physical, two-way type of player. Not as much as Jimmy Butler, but a good scorer, comes up in big moments, understands big moments, and I think Brunson matches that. I think this Knicks team matches that. Julius Randle at times didn't against Cleveland. He was benched an entire fourth quarter in a game. I think it was game 4 he was benched. But Jalen Brunson does have that. Josh Hart, we've seen him in the playoffs. Josh Hart may have been one of the more underrated pickups at the trade deadline of the NBA season. He comes off the bench, gives them great minutes, plays great defense, also a solid scorer, and does the same things. Very tough, understands big moments, comes up big in big moments. And then you have the talents of Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, and that's a very good Knicks team. I know we're enamored by Jimmy Butler and sort of the unbelievable, inhuman thing. It's just unreal, the things that he pulled off against the team he pulled it off against with the players that he has around him. But we're in the next round now. I think a lot of Milwaukee's issues may have just been Milwaukee's issues. And to think that that continues in the next round, I like the Knicks against Cleveland. So I got that right. I feel good about it. I don't know how good I would feel. And again, I don't know if you can bet on it because the series line has the Knicks at the favorite. I don't know if you want to bet that. But I also think when that series line came out and the Heat were a slight underdog on the series line, it was just a mad rush of, oh my God, what, Jimmy Butler's the best player in the playoffs so far. This Heat team's playing well. Of course they can beat the Knicks. They just beat the Bucks. They have to beat the Knicks. I don't think it's that easy. And again, I think the Knicks match up very well with Miami. It's not a given that this Miami team continues the way that they've played. And also Miami is not that good of a team. It is just Jimmy Butler. Can Jimmy Butler do it again against a team that's going to be as physical? A team that held Cleveland to under 80 points in a game. I think that's the only time this season I think I saw that a team had been held under 80 points. It's a tough defense. Can grind out points on offense. Comes up clutch in the fourth quarter in a way Milwaukee wasn't. This is going to be a battle. And I love the fact that it's the Knicks taking them on in the next round because Miami riding high, Jimmy Butler's playing great, and they're going to run into a team that matches their intensity like probably any other team in the NBA playoffs could. Tune in to the Daily Ticket, Fox Sports The Gambler. We'll get into more NBA playoffs. Just found that matchup very interesting as the first Eastern Conference semifinal matchup is locked in. We still have to wait for the Boston Celtics to lock in their matchup with the Sixers. It does seem like that it is going to be at a future date. We just don't know when that is going to be. Also, NFL draft tonight. And as I mentioned at the start, Howie Roseman and the Eagles are already being rumored to potentially move up in the NFL draft. And it makes a lot of sense. There's a spot in this draft that a team is looking to move back. I'm sure many teams are looking to move back in this draft because this draft, at least in the first round, and when it comes to top end talent, is reportedly looked at as thin. And it is. It's not the most talented draft class. There aren't a lot of players you would trade up for. But that just means Howie Roseman, when everybody is going one direction, he wants to go the other. And Howie Roseman's looking to go the other direction here. While everybody's trying to trade back, he's one of a very few, a handful of teams that want to move up. And if they have that chance, there is a player there worth doing that for. I don't know how many players there are at the top worth moving up. Now, luckily for the Eagles, they do have also the, not just the 10, but the 30th overall draft pick in the first round as well. And I'm sure they would come up with other draft picks, other ways, other things to trade to sweeten up the package more. But probably 2 quarterbacks are going to go in the first round, in the first 2 to 3 picks. I imagine the first 2 picks. I would be stunned if, and this all, the domino effect of what the Houston Texans do changes everything. I don't think the Houston Texans are going to pass up on drafting a quarterback. I think they need to draft one. Anything about Davis Mills, them potentially liking him enough to try him out for another season and maybe try again for a quarterback, doesn't work for me because Davis Mills has not shown enough promise to warrant that. And next year, who knows where they're going to be in the draft. And I think the quarterback class is good next year. Drake May, Caleb Williams. I love both of those guys. I think Caleb Williams could be one of the better quarterback prospects coming out in the draft in a few years. But who knows what Caleb Williams is going to be after next year, what Drake May is going to be, and where the Houston Texans are going to be drafting. It's a long time from now. Thinking way too far ahead. I think it's smart, and eventually I do think the Houston Texans take a quarterback. Bryce Young, to me, is a number 1 overall pick. I know some anonymous Reddit user said it's going to be Will Levis. It will not be Will Levis. But it is going to be Bryce Young. And number 2, I think you get CJ Stroud. That's where the 3rd pick comes in and is the most interesting pick in the draft, because if Will Anderson is available at 3, a team like the Eagles, I don't think teams are going to jump Arizona to try and get a quarterback, because they could try and jump in that Arizona 3 pick to get ahead for a quarterback. But Indianapolis looks like they want to take Will Levis. And I don't think many teams would trade up for Will Levis, but a team might trade up for an intriguing prospect and a special talent in Anthony Richardson. So I don't know if they're going to feel the need to move up to 3 to try and take Anthony Richardson. They're going to just do it after the Colts, who again seem like they're aligned for Will Levis at 4. Well, that means a team that doesn't want a quarterback, wants to get a top player, can move up. And I think the Eagles are one of those. And the Eagles, we know, put a premium on defensive line and pass rushing. And we know that one of the best players in this draft, some people call him the best player, Will Anderson, could be available at 3. That is a player worth moving up for. The Eagles have the means to do it. And you want to talk about game-changing players? I get Jackson, Smith and Jigba, Bijan Robinson, Jalen Carter, all game-changing impact players. But at that position and at that value, Will Anderson, to me, is worth it. Go up and get that guy. I'm sure there are other players you can move up for. I don't know if the Eagles want to trade up or would trade up for a defensive tackle like Jalen Carter. I think he's a great player. But the one guy I see that worth it for. And this is, so the report was the Eagles are planning or looking to move up if the right player is available. I think the right player being available is at number 3, and is Will Anderson if Houston doesn't take him at 2. And then I think you could see the Eagles moving up and taking one of the best talents in the draft in Will Anderson out of Alabama. You're tuned into the line change. It's not the line change, the Daily Ticket, Fox Sports, The Gambler. We're going to talk more NFL draft. The rumors are swirling, and I want to talk, obviously, quarterbacks. Are there going to be 2 taken in the top 2 picks? But also, what are some other players down the board that the Eagles could potentially get? We know they need a third wide receiver. We know they do need a running back. If they don't get him at the top, who are some players that they can look further down on the board, maybe day number 2 or even day number 3 in the draft, that could be a good pick and fit right in with the Eagles? I'll ask Devin Jackson that of the Philadelphia Inquirer. He's actually there at the NFL draft. We're talking with him next here on the Daily Ticket.
Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. Now, total traffic for Philadelphia.
Heavy on the Vine Expressway eastbound to Schuylkill to the Ben Franklin Parkway. Disabled tractor trailer takes out the left lane. Schuylkill westbound jams Vare to Girard, then Montgomery out past Belmont. Eastbound Schuylkill, heavy from 202 to Gulf Mills, 476 into Belmont, then Montgomery to South Street. Brandon Joseph, total traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Since 2010, Blindster has sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters to satisfied customers across the country with 20,000 5-star reviews and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. Custom blinds at low prices and free shipping. Blindster.com.
The 2023 NFL Draft is right around the corner, and the Move the Sticks podcast has you covered for all your draft needs. The show's hosted by me, Daniel Jeremiah, and my partner, Bucky Brooks.
When it comes to Kansas City and the draft, Move the Sticks is the podcast that will answer all of your questions. Who's going at the top of the draft? Who's going to potentially slide? Don't worry, tune in, and you'll be ready to watch the draft like a scout.
Subscribe now and listen to the Move the Sticks podcast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm not even mad that I've never experienced that so-called brotherly love you all brag about here in Philly. I wouldn't expect that being a huge rival and all.
That's football legend and all-time rushing leader Emmitt Smith.
Even though we've been on different sides of the field, I'm still going to extend some kindness to you folks and tell you all about a way to get relief from that awful joint pain without surgery or harmful medications. That's QC Kinetics.
They're the nation's leader in regenerative treatments that go right to the source of your pain in your knees, hips, shoulders, or back, using your natural healing properties right in the office. No downtime to get you the relief you deserve.
See, we all in this together when it comes to getting relief from that nagging joint pain. I'm glad I can show you some brotherly love, Philly.
Call QC Kinetics today.
Call QC Kinetics, 215-999-3000. That's 215-999-3000. 215-999-3000.
Paid for by government.com. Did you hear? A recent stash of $10 gold Liberty coins from the 1800s has been found. These gorgeous gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck in the late 1800s, and less than 50 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling this gold find an incredible opportunity. Call 1-800-973-3077, and you are guaranteed a $10 gold Liberty coin minted by the U.S. Mint in the 1800s. But with extremely limited availability, you must call now. These gold Liberty coins from the 1800s are still in uncirculated condition. That is history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-973-3077. Call now, and you'll receive a free American Coin Collector's Bonus Package, a $40 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-3077 now to secure your $10 gold Liberty coins dated from the 1800s before they sell out. That's 1-800-973-3077.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Starting trouble. No one likes that. We can get you set up for some stronger starts. You might just need a fresh charge, and we can take care of that free of charge. But if it is time for a new battery, we've got replacement batteries that'll fit your needs, starting at just $79.99.
Wait! Unlimited first-year cash back match, only from Discover. See terms and learn more at discover.com/match.
Big news, country fans. Ram Trucks is coming back to the iHeart Country Festival Saturday, May 13th in Austin, Texas. And this year, the highlight of the show will definitely be the We're All Country guitar pull, powered by Ram Trucks, featuring performances by country music's biggest names. Like these stars, Ram owners have heart for being fearless, determined, and bold. That's why it's time for you to be a Ram. Check out what the 2023 Ram 1500 has to offer by visiting ram.com today.
O'Reilly. Did you know 1 in 4 car batteries is weak and needs to be replaced? O'Reilly Auto Parts will test your battery for free. If your battery needs to be replaced, our professional parts people can help you find the best Superstart battery for your vehicle and budget. Don't wait. Get your battery tested for free today at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
The primary election is just as important as the general election. Cast your ballot on May 16th to choose the city's next leadership. The deadline to register to vote is May 1st. You can be a part of changing the city for the better by casting your vote and lifting your voice. Find voter guides, reporting about candidates and important community issues, as well as dates for candidate forums at everyvoice-everyvote.org.
Only iHeartRadio gives you access to all of your favorite radio stations.
It's Elliot in the morning. Rod Ryan Show, check it in. It's The Woody Show.
All of the once-in-a-lifetime events.
The 2023 iHeartRadio Music Awards.
All of the best free curated playlists.
All the rock for all the people.
All of the great podcasts for every interest.
This is Freddie Prinze Jr. from the Wrestling with Freddie podcast.
All of the mind-blowing contests.
$20,000.
Awesome. All of your favorite superstars.
This is Pete from Fall Out Boy.
Best of all, it doesn't cost a thing. Download the absolutely free iHeartRadio app now.
Your home for Villanova basketball is WDAS and WD273D. Fox Sports Radio Philadelphia.
Oh my God!
Now's your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Bang. That's bang.
Enter now.
You heard the man. Get over to foxphlgambler.com and enter the keyword for your chance to win $1,000. Once again, foxphlgambler.com.
Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler.
Singing songs and celebrating life. Touring fans just trying to survive. In a country torn apart from the inside.
It is hour number 2 of the Daily Ticket. Fox Sports The Gambler. Jon Jansen filling in for Sean Brace for the next 2 days. He's out golfing somewhere in Myrtle Beach. And, of course, when Sean Brace leaves, I get all of the problems I never would have in the studio. But Brace leaves, and all the problems he would have now have been, I guess, placed on me. Never easy. But what's easy, talking basketball with Sean Barnard. And that's what we're going to do right now on the Daily Ticket to start hour number 2. You can follow him at Sean_Barnard. And, of course, he helps us a lot around here when it comes to not only our socials and YouTube, but one of the best when it comes to basketball. And the Sixers, we don't get to talk about too much because the Sixers, they don't even have an opponent yet. They will, and we know who it's going to be. But it hasn't happened yet. However, last night, we get our first Eastern Conference semifinal matchup locked in, and one of the best playoff series playoff performances we have seen from a singular player. Can't wait to talk about that with Sean Barnard joining me on the Gambler Hotline. Can you put into words what you've been seeing from Jimmy Butler over that first round series against Milwaukee?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to. I don't think it's like a hyperbole to say this has been the most dominant individual stretch of basketball that I've ever seen. This guy is literally single-handedly lifting the Heat up against a Bucks team that is notably better than them. I mean, we're talking about the title favorite, a team that was minus 1,100 to win this series a team that will have the most wins across the regular season, and a team that won a championship just 2 years ago. And in contrast, we have a Miami Heat team with 7 undrafted players. I mean, their closing lineup last night, and yes, some of those had to do with players fouling out, so this isn't their go-to, but their closing lineup last night was Jimmy Butler, Cody Zeller, Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, and Haywood Highsmith. And this team took down the Milwaukee Bucks. So it's a credit to Jimmy Butler for lifting them up, and I'm still stunned by it.
Completely stunned by it. It's an 8 seed beating a 1 seed. It hasn't happened very many times in NBA history. It happens now, though. Why did it happen, and what does it say about where the league is at after seeing a series like that?
I think the biggest takeaway, and this is something that to me basketball has always been so appealing, is one player can make such a difference. That there's one guy who can get that look in their eye, be that good, and find a way to win. And that's what Jimmy Butler was. This Bucks team is for sure not free of blame. There were a ton of execution issues down the stretch. Giannis shooting just below 50% from the free throw line on the series. He was 10 of 23 last night. So there was a ton of issues on the Bucks end, but for the most part, it's Jimmy Butler just doing his thing and refusing to quit and being good enough to get the job done on both ends of the floor.
Knicks beating the Cavaliers was also, I mean, this was the matchup we didn't expect, right? We thought it was going to be Milwaukee, Cleveland. Milwaukee, the favorite heading into the Eastern Conference playoffs. Cleveland is that dark horse team, and here comes the Heat and the Knicks. And I'm intrigued by both teams. How did the Knicks get it done as well, and doing it in very convincing fashion over Cleveland?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway is Cleveland's just not quite ready yet. They're a little bit ahead of their timeline. We've said that all season, but I expect them to be better than they were. The biggest storyline and the reason that they had so much success is they just imposed themselves on the glass. They dominated the rebounds in just about every single game. Mitchell Robinson looked like the best big man in the series, which just should never happen when the Cavs are rolling out Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. Jared Allen looked afraid of the moment last night, and that was a huge concern for them, and that's where the difference was. The Knicks dominated the rebounds, they got extra possessions, and that ended up making them cruise to a victory. So this Knicks team, while they've definitely flown under the radar a little bit this year, they don't really have any significant holes. They're polished. Jalen Brunson is the real deal. It's a guy that can run a team, and this second round matchup against Miami is going to be a bloodbath.
Knicks are the favorite on the series line. Should they be the favorite, and who do you think ultimately should win this series?
Yeah, I mean, the Knicks are definitely the better basketball team. They're the more well-rounded, but that was the case for the Heat and the Bucks in round one, and the Bucks are frankly a better team than the Knicks are. So it's tough to look against or bet against, think against, or anything against Jimmy Butler at this point. So I'm not really sure where I'm landing at on that series yet. I think this is going to be a deep playoff series. Like I said, it's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be physical. It's going to be some low-scoring totals for both teams.
Yes, there are.
Yeah, I think the over-under for the Knicks Cavs series, it was hovering around 202, 201. I think it might even be lower than this in this Miami and New York series. So that's going to be what we're in store for, some defensive basketball. I'm pretty torn, but I'm having a hard time going against Jimmy Butler right now.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it because Jimmy Butler's been great. How do the Knicks match up with the Heat, though? Because it felt like Milwaukee just obviously didn't have an answer for Jimmy Butler. I don't know if the Knicks do. Do you feel like they have a better chance? As you just said, their defense has been great. We're going to see a lot of low-scoring games here. But Jalen Brunson is also that kind of player like Butler. Not as good, but very much a grinder, plays two ways. The Knicks just have that identity and a little bit of that Villanova identity running through them. Do the Knicks match up well against the Heat?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely the more talented team. The Heat, the interesting storyline for the Heat is they were the 27th ranked three-point shooting team throughout the whole regular season, and they've been first across the playoffs. So some of it is a make or miss league. We hear that all the time. They've been hitting shots, and when they're knocking down threes like that, they're a team that likes to get them up. So that's going to be something to watch if that continues. That's tough to defend. The Knicks definitely have the advantages in a ton of matchups. I think Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle are going to have a pretty easy time against Bam Adebayo too. Bam struggled against Brook Lopez in that last series too. He's been a guy that's disappeared a little bit in the playoffs. Tyler Hero's out with the broken hand. Max Strus and Gabe Vincent probably slide in as the 2 and 3 in that series, which is concerned considering those are your kind of go-to scorers. But I don't know. The Knicks absolutely are the better team, more well-rounded team, and match up really well. But like I said, one player can make such a difference, and it's tough to. I have nothing but belief in Jimmy Butler right now.
the Golden State Warriors, they ended up winning a road game. They won a road game, only their 12th this season, but it gives them a 3-2 lead. By the way, we're talking with Sean Barnard. You can follow him at Sean_Barnard1, and we are going over some NBA playoffs right now and breaking down last night's game, including the Warriors 123-116 win. Steph Curry was in his bag. He was unbelievable for the Warriors, especially down late. They get that road victory. How much does this prove for Golden State that they are another contender again in the Western Conference? That road record doesn't matter in the regular season, or is this more on the inexperience, I guess, of Sacramento?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. First off, it was frustrating that game was on at the same time as that Heat-Bucks game last night. So the two late-night games were both terrific, and it was tough bouncing back and forth. But, yeah, this Warriors team, they are who we thought they were. This is a four-time champion in the past 8 years. They have the pieces together. Draymond Green looks like he's playing actual basketball. Again, he's hit shots last night doing his thing, so that's positive to see. The saying goes that the series doesn't start until road games won, and that's what Golden State did. So De'Aaron Fox also looked better than I expected. I know he's dealing with the finger issue, played through that. He didn't look bothered by it, which is a positive side for Sacramento. I think the Kings find a way to win in Game 6, and this goes to a 7th game, but I do think Golden State ultimately cruises through and should be considered legitimate title threats once again.
Are they the best team in the West?
I'm going to go out and say no right now, but I think it's pretty even. I think the winner of that Denver Phoenix series on the other side is probably the favorite to come out of the West and the best team in the West. Top end talent, I think those teams both have a slight advantage when we talk about. I mean, it's hard to say that against Golden State, but the West is a pretty even playing field right now, and I'm probably giving the nod to whoever comes out of Denver and Phoenix.
The Atlanta Hawks have done the Sixers some favors here, letting Joel Embiid rest a little bit more because of that sprained LCL, and also making Boston look vulnerable, but it could come to a stop tonight. It's the only game on tonight in the NBA playoffs. Celtics-Hawks. Celtics 7-point favorites against Atlanta on the road. Do the Celtics get it done tonight?
I don't think they do. I think the Hawks extend this one.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the series heading back to Atlanta, this Hawks team looks like they've found their identity and found their swagger again. And that's like a key part to this Hawks team. Everything's built through Trae Young, and we know what Trae Young is for all the flaws that he has as far as size, the ball dominance, the lack of defense. He's got some swagger and the biggest guts of anyone across the NBA. And the team's following his lead now. It was amazing to see him pull off that come from behind victory in the previous game. I think heading back to Atlanta, they've been good at home this year. They've been good at home in these playoffs. I think they're going to run and gun, pick up the style. They get DeJounte Murray back, and I think the Hawks have found themselves as a team and are going to mean business tonight.
So the Hawks potentially forcing a Game 7. What chance would you give them if they do force it to a Game 7?
I still think the Celtics find a way to win this series, and it wouldn't completely shock me if they do win tonight. I lean towards the Hawks. I like the +7 as a number, as an insurance policy. I think at the minimum, this is a close game, but I do lean towards them getting the win. I think the Celtics find a way to cruise through. They're just the deeper team, the more polished team, and it wouldn't shock me if they come in and completely mean business tonight, but I do believe in the Hawks to extend things. The Celtics are for sure still the better team.
One more series to go over, and then I want to play a little game with you when it comes to the NBA and tying the NFL draft into it. The Lakers, they now have a 3-2 lead still after losing to the Grizzlies last night. They're back at home. Do the Lakers finish this up? Are the Lakers the team you feel that are going to be moving on in that series?
Yeah, I do. The more I watch this team, the more I'm starting to buy in. Like, the pieces are fitting together better. Anthony Davis has been inconsistent, but when he's at his best, he's a key part. And as far as defensively, he's huge for what they do. And for as far as Memphis goes, John Morant's clearly bothered by this wrist issue. He's not showing it in the way he's throwing his body around, but that has to be affecting his shooting and the way he's finishing. We see him grabbing at it. That's something to watch. I think this is still going to be a dogfight. The Grizzlies aren't going to roll over easily, but I think the Lakers are the more complete team and more ready for the moment right now.
Talking with Sean Barnard. You can follow him at Sean_Barnard1. He's the Sixers staff writer and also does things for Pick Swap and does things for us as well, our NBA insider. I want to do a tie-in here because Jimmy Butler is throwing just an entire wrench into the conversation of who are the best players in the NBA, and right now he's getting a lot of talks in that conversation when he hasn't been at all really through his entire career. So I want to tie it in. We're going to do a draft of the top 5 players in the NBA. Number 1, should we start with we'll do number 1 overall pick, like the NFL draft. Number 1 overall pick. I'll even do the draft chime. Number 1 overall pick from Sean Barnard in the NBA draft is
It's Jimmy Butler for me.
Wow.
We talk about all season how there's this difference between playoffs and the regular season stylistically and level of play. There's no player that's more indicative of than Jimmy Butler. And I mean, just looking at his stats for this series, he's averaging 37.6 points, 6 rebounds a game, 4.8 assists, and the shooting splits are what's blowing me away. I mean, 59.7% from the field on 23.8 attempts, shooting 44.4% from 3 on 5.4 attempts, and both those attempts are massive leaps forward from what he did in the regular season. He attempted 13.9 shots per game in the regular season. He's nearly doubling that at 24.8 in the postseason. And then from 3, he attempted just 1.6 3-pointers a game in the regular season. He's at 5.4 so far in the playoffs, with both those efficiencies going up as well, in addition to him doing it on the defense end and making several key plays. So, yeah, I haven't seen a player playing at a higher level than him in quite some time. And if he can keep this going, the Heat are a real team to watch. I'm floored by how well he's playing.
Jimmy Butler, the number 1 overall pick in the top 5 players left remaining in the NBA. The pick is in for number 2. Sean Barnard selects
Devin Booker, number 2. Devin Booker's quietly been putting together one of the most efficient postseasons ever, and I mean he's right alongside Butler. He's averaging 37.2 points per game, leading the NBA in 2.6 steals, which he's grown a ton as a defender. The Suns, in many ways, as much as there's Kevin Durant and Chris Paul there, Devin Booker's been getting some of these go-to looks. So 6.4 assists as well. The playmaking's growing. 5.0 rebounds. Shooting 46.7% from 3, and the Suns looked very good in round 1. So I'm giving Devin Booker the nod for number 2.
Devin Booker, number 2 overall selection. The number 3 pick is in. Number 3 pick for the top 5 players remaining in the NBA playoffs. Sean Barnard selects
Joel Embiid. Ooh. Give me Joel Embiid, and I know he's not at 100%. I know there's the knee issues. For me, it becomes crystal clear come playoff time, the guys that can do it on both ends of the floor and the guys that can't. That's where I give the edge to Joel Embiid. The title of best player in the world right now is very much up for grabs, especially considering that loss very much up for grabs, especially considering Giannis getting bounced. So I want Joel to play like that with a chip on his shoulder. He's more polished as a basketball player. He can do it on both sides of the floor, and I expect him to prove that in round 2. So give me Joel Embiid for my 3rd pick, and I hope he comes in at least somewhat healthy.
The number 4 pick is in. Sean Barnard selects.
Give me Steph Curry here. Not the guy that I guess fits my two-way description here, but he still deserves a ton of credit for him becoming at least passable as a defender. And the way he can just take over a game is insane to watch to me. So he hasn't been on full Steph Curry mode for most of this series, but he's still leading that Golden State team to this series lead. And you can't count out this Warriors team. He's got the polish. He can change a game. And for me, he's my number 4.
All right, we're at the last one, the number 5 overall pick in the NBA players remaining in the playoffs draft. I butchered the description of this draft, but Sean Barnard selects.
Give me Jason Tatum at number 5. And it's a little scary looking ahead to the second round matchup. I'm impressed with Tatum, the way that he's grown throughout his career arc. He does it on both ends of the floor as well. He hasn't been red hot so far these playoffs, but I expect that to change. And I'm a little concerned for him coming on. He's a legitimate superstar. He's climbed the ranks. And as much as it's frustrating to see him in a Celtics uniform, Tatum's a complete player and deserves his respect to be mentioned amongst the tops across the league.
Yeah, but he can't beat the Hawks, though. That's got to say something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I got to throw Trae Young in there if the series turns out.
Yeah. I want to cause all the chaos. You know what? I would take Trae Young there. That is my advice. Isn't that kind of weird? And we'll get back to that now. Top 5 players, again, remaining from Sean Barnard, though, in the NBA playoffs. Jimmy Butler, number 1. Devin Booker, 2. Joel Embiid, 3. Steph Curry, 4. Jason Tatum, 5. Trae Young has pretty much carried in the 2 wins that the Hawks have had, carried the team. And he said, obviously, there are some role players fitting into places, and I think Sadiq Bey is one of those coming off the bench. I think he's been excellent for the Hawks in that series. Trae Young, though, before the playoffs, it was rumored that he might get traded. The Hawks kind of gave the green light of, kind of look around and see if anybody wants this guy, and we're willing to dump him off somewhere. Do you think that obviously has changed now? And was that a bit premature to even be thinking that?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a frustrating season for the Hawks. The Trae Young and DeJounte Murray pairing has not worked as well as has hoped, and they've struggled all season to find a way to maximize both these. There's been a ton of lineups where they're kind of alternating when they're on the floor and finding ways, and that's just not effective. Like, you need your 2 best players to be able to at least coexist. Trae Young is also kind of getting the reputation as a little bit of a coach killer. We saw them make the firing midseason and bring in Quinn Snyder. But at the same time, like with all these issues, you got to look at what's happening on the floor. And like I said, there's very few guys with the amount of guts that Trae Young has. And to me, that's super respectable. He has the skill that backs it up. And what's most impressive to me, in addition to the, pull up from the parking lot, logo threes and everything else that he's famous for, the way he can manipulate a defense from a passing perspective and playmaking, the way he creates for others, it shouldn't go unnoticed. So I believe the pendulum has swung on Trae Young to the point where he's become a little underrated, and he's up there in the smart conversation, no doubt. So I would say those talks were premature.
And we'll finish off the segment here with Sean Barnard at Sean_Barnard1 on Twitter. With a couple of Sixers questions. First, Embiid is getting some rest on that knee, and you're thinking you get even more rest for the sprained LCL. What do you think his status will be for game number 1 and his effectiveness with that knee injury in the series against Boston?
Yeah, he was meeting with the doctor update since that happened. The last press availability was at the time Embiid was with the doctor, so I haven't heard anything from them. There might be an update that comes out tonight that provides some more clarity. I don't think there's any question that he suits up, and this is not coming from the Sixers. This is more of me reading things. I think he's definitely going to be on the floor. It's just a question of what level that he is at. And I mean, the part that's concerning to me, and I compared this to last season, when we talked about last season, him playing through his torn ligament in his thumb and the broken face issue, the optimism there was that it couldn't get worse, that it is what it is, let's deal with it. That's not the case this year. Like, this knee could be an issue and could get worse, which is the sign of concern. But I mean, it's the playoffs. This is the red carpet has been laid for the Sixers' clearest chance at a championship that they've really had in the Joel Embiid era, minus that 2018-19 season with the Kawhi shot. So he's going to have to gut it out. Even a Joel Embiid at 80% is a lot better than most players across the league. And frankly, he's a guy more so than just about anyone in the NBA, pretty used to playing below his 100%. So I have optimism, and I think he's going to find a way to impact the game regardless.
And I'm going to assume, and I think safely assume, that it's going to be Boston taking on the Sixers in round 2. But the Hawks have given them a tough time, and this Boston team doesn't look like it's playing its best basketball in this series. How does a Hawks series like this and kind of the vulnerability shown from Boston affect round number 2? Because Boston has been the kryptonite for the Sixers. Sixers have not been able to beat them in the regular season, in previous playoff series in recent years. How does this change your perception of this series if it is Sixers and Celtics in round 2?
Yeah, it's interesting. This Celtics team, so they are coming off that finals run last year. They're almost on the opposite trajectory of last year. Like, if you think back, that last season through the start of the year, they looked terrible. They were struggling to win. There was talks of should Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown be broken up. And then all of a sudden things kind of clicked midseason, and that's when they hit their stride and cruised that way all the way through the playoffs. This year it's been the opposite, that they started off super hot, looked like the best team of the season, and then have kind of fallen off that. So they have not played their best basketball of late. Talking about the end of the regular season and then clearly into these playoffs. So they're not this unbeatable force that they have been in past years. They're still a very good basketball team, don't get me wrong, but the Sixers should look at that optimistically. And I mean, Sixers took care of business in round 1 with that sweep. I'm not going to say that we can take away too much from that, because I do think the Nets were the worst playoff team available. And if they did not have Kyrie and KD on the roster for the first half of the year, they probably aren't cracking the postseason at all. But you can only beat who's in front of you. The Sixers absolutely did that, and it's nice that they've had this extra break to game plan, get prepared, and there are vulnerabilities in the Celtics team, so I'm more optimistic than most, I think.
Yeah, I am as well. I keep flipping back and forth because Celtics do have that great guard play. The Sixers, and especially Tyrese Maxey, struggle against that at times, but this is the best the Sixers have looked in a postseason series, and I think this looks like a very vulnerable Boston team as well. So I think we're seeing some good signs, at least heading into a potential round 2 matchup. Always good things from you, though, Sean Barnard, when you come on here, and you've been on the Daily Ticket a lot, but you are an NBA insider, and there is plenty of NBA drama going around. You can follow him at Sean_Barnard1, and you can check out his work over at PickSwap, also here at Fox Sports The Gambler. Sean, appreciate you for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. And only one game on the night tonight, so a little bit of a down night for me.
Yeah, well, the NFL draft can at least give you something to watch. I think you'll be okay for one night with no basketball. But I know, knowing you're going to be itching for it. But that is Sean Barnard. Again, follow him at Sean_Barnard1. We do have breaking, huge, gigantic, I think, big NFL news. We'll get to that coming up next here on the Daily Ticket.
Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. Now, total traffic for Philadelphia.
Jam traffic on 202 southbound from Route 100 into Westtown Road. That because of a crash, right lane is blocked. Schuylkill eastbound's jamming from Montgomery into South Street. Westbound Schuylkill crawling past Young to Girard, then again Montgomery out to Belmont. Vine Expressway, that's jammed both ways end to end. 95 northbound stop and go from the Vine Expressway to Bridge Street. Southbound pretty heavy from Penn's Landing into Broad Street. In New Jersey, heavy volume on 42 southbound, the Walt Whitman Bridge down to 295. Brendan Joseph, total traffic.
This report is sponsored by eBay Motors. You do anything to keep your vehicle happy. Let's make sure it stays running smoothly. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, the right parts are just a click away. When you see the green check, you know that part will fit. Get the right parts at the right prices. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
QC Kinetics patient Diane Richardson saw her brother-in-law have surgery for pain in his elbow.
My brother-in-law, after that surgery, had his arm in a sling for almost 6 months, extensive PT, pain medication, a lot of restrictions of what he could not do.
So when Diane's husband, Greg, had a similar problem, she encouraged a different treatment, regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics. And the experience was like night and day compared to his brother.
After 6 months, nothing. He hasn't felt any pain, and that has been 2 years since he's had treatment.
Plus, no drugs and no downtime.
He was literally out golfing when he wanted to and doing whatever he wanted to. It was probably 9 months before my brother-in-law got back out on the golf course, and my husband was on the golf course the entire time. And he was so elated. He goes, Diane, game changer.
Before you have surgery for that joint pain, get a second opinion. Call QC Kinetics for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 215-999-3000. That's 215-999-3000. 215-999-3000.
The 2023 NFL Draft is right around the corner, and the Move the Sticks podcast has you covered for all your draft needs. The show's hosted by me, Daniel Jeremiah, and my partner, Bucky Brooks.
When it comes to Kansas City and the draft, Move the Sticks is the podcast that will answer all of your questions. Who's going at the top of the draft? Who's going to potentially slide? Don't worry, tune in, and you'll be ready to watch the draft like a scout.
Subscribe now and listen to the Move the Sticks podcast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Paid for by government.com.
Did you hear? A recent stash of $10 gold Liberty coins from the 1800s has been found. These gorgeous gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck in the late 1800s, and less than 50 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling this gold find an incredible opportunity. Call 1-800-973-3077, and you are guaranteed a $10 gold Liberty coin minted by the U.S. Mint in the 1800s. But with extremely limited availability, you must call now. These gold Liberty coins from the 1800s are still in uncirculated condition. That is history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-973-3077. Call now, and you'll receive a free American Coin Collector's Bonus Package, a $40 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-3077 now to secure your $10 gold Liberty coins dated from the 1800s before they sell out. That's 1-800-973-3077.
Grab your friends, and Saturday afternoon, May 6th, head to Harrah's Philadelphia Casino and Racetrack for Derby Day. You'll be enjoying live racing and watching the Derby on the big screen at the racetrack and throughout Harrah's Philly. While you're there, enjoy the mint juleps, Chardonnays, and more. Enter to win the hat contest and the cheesesteak eating contest and the Alt 104.5 contest to win free tickets to the adjacent festival. It all happens May 6th at Harrah's Philadelphia Casino and Racetrack for Derby Day. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Are you a business owner, CEO, or responsible for marketing? If you are, iHeartMedia can help you reach your goals and find new customers. We reach more consumers in your target area than anyone else. And we can give you access to those potential customers more cost-effectively across radio, digital, podcasting, and social. We'd love to show you how iHeartMedia can work for you. From your cell, dial pound 250 and say keyword great results. That's pound 250 and say great results.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage. You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Pennzoil Platinum can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life oil filter for only $37.99. Get started on your next job today with the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Hey, man, you all right? Need me to call 911? No, call Top Dog Law. Get top dollar for your accident at TopDogLaw.com. Once again, that's TopDogLaw.com.
Time, the way you laugh and dance in the kitchen after drinking too much cheap red wine. I always rewind the whole movies in my mind. Back to the times first moving in with you. I have so much to tell you.
All eyes are on the NFL and more specifically the NFL draft tonight. But before the draft begins, we have some non-draft NFL news rolling right along. This according to and broken by Jay Glazer. Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens have agreed to a new 5-year deal. So this comes after a bunch of turmoil, Lamar Jackson requesting a trade, the Ravens signing Odell Beckham Jr., who's saying that he was anticipating Lamar Jackson being the starting quarterback. And then I think what ultimately helped get this deal done was Howie Roseman and the Eagles agreeing to a contract and likely going to be a similar deal to Jalen Hurts. Once that got done, once that number was revealed, I think that laid the groundwork for how the Ravens and Lamar were going to be negotiating for their contract. And it gets done. Don't know the exact terms of the deal, but it is a 5-year deal. I imagine it's going to be similar, if not maybe a little bit more money than Jalen Hurts even got with the Eagles. And I know there are some Lamar haters that are probably going to question why he's going to get more money than Jalen Hurts. And I love Jalen Hurts as a quarterback. I think Jalen Hurts is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So I'm coming at this as a place of I love both quarterbacks, but also I am a very noted Lamar Jackson guy. I think he is still one of the top quarterbacks in the league. I think he's proven at times, and even the start of last year, that he could still be one of the top 2 to 3 best quarterbacks. And he played like that. He was having an historical season. The caveat comes with he got injured last year. So he had this historical start where his passing and rushing yards numbers and touchdown numbers were through the roof, something we've never seen before for a start of a player in the NFL, was on pace to break a bunch of records, and he gets hurt. He got hurt in the pocket, first of all, so I think it was a bit of a freak injury. These injuries have kind of happened over the past 2 years, so that also has to be given context as well, that he has been injured, but the talent's still there. I think last year what I saw from Lamar was an improved quarterback, and not just an improved quarterback, but I thought he was playing like one of the best. He still has that potential. And once you have that guy, you pay him, pay that kind of quarterback that money. The Eagles did it with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, I know, got the Eagles to the Super Bowl, was second in MVP voting, Some people thought he should have won the MVP, although I think it was easily Patrick Mahomes. But you give that quarterback the right market money. I thought both guys, or at least Lamar Jackson, was right asking for more. And I always found that kind of weird. Jalen Hurts could have asked for a lot more. And I hate the idea that a player should be talked about in a better way because he decided not to venture into that. That Jalen Hurts is getting more credit for going, let's just get the deal done. Let's just get what the market says right now. No need to try and get more. And that's fine. Jalen Hurts can do it that way. And Jalen Hurts has every right to do it that way. But it also doesn't mean that another player is worse or another player should be looked at differently because they asked for more. I think Jalen Hurts should have asked for more guaranteed money. And I think Jalen Hurts could have really pushed that envelope and almost gotten close to getting Deshaun Watson type money if he really wanted to ask for it. And because Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts, who were the two marquee names at the quarterback position that were asking for new deals, that were ready to get new deals, they could have, if they both did it at the same time, set a precedent for what this pay should be for those quarterbacks that I think Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert are going to be doing next. I don't think one has to be looked at as being worse than the other. Jalen Hurts didn't want to look for it. Great. I wish he did. I'm okay with Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson should have asked for more guaranteed money. But right now, the NFL is just not giving anybody that. But they got it done. Lamar Jackson is a Raven. And now we're seeing from Charles Robinson, I'm pretty sure of, senior NFL reporter for Yahoo, the structure of Lamar Jackson's deal with the Ravens should open up a shot at facilitating a trade for Cardinals wideout DeAndre Hopkins. And that's the next step of this. So you get the deal done, and you get Lamar Jackson his money. You make him happy. You make him your quarterback, by the way. The next step is actually getting him an offense. I think that's one thing that gets lost in the conversation all the time, that we always want to talk about Lamar Jackson. Can he pass in the pocket? Is he a good passer? Can he stay healthy? Is Lamar Jackson this or that? Lamar Jackson's been the best player on the Ravens by far. The Ravens don't get anywhere without Lamar. And I think there's proof in him being out. Tyler Huntley, I think, is a good backup and still had problems because the Ravens aren't good. The Ravens are looked at as this organization that doesn't fail, that makes all the right moves, looked at in the same respect and in the same vein as a Pittsburgh Steelers team. They can do no wrong. They always draft well. They're always making smart moves because they don't overpay guys. And they're finding guys late in drafts or even in the first round that they hit on. But the Ravens have not been making good moves. And the Ravens' offense, I think, lags behind the rest of the NFL. And I think the Ravens' philosophy and way of building a team has not been good. They're trying not to pay a premium for skill position players. Look around the NFL. Look at what the rest of the league is doing. Even Howie Roseman, who didn't want to do that, Howie Roseman and the Eagles organization has historically never paid or spent top dollar resources for skill position players, especially at wide receiver. And guess what Howie Roseman's done? Drafted Devontae Smith, traded for A.J. Brown. And the Eagles got to a Super Bowl. Miami, they got Tyreek Hill. Cincinnati has made it a priority to make sure T. Higgins and Jamar Chase stay together, and even going further than that and wanting to keep Tyler Boyd as well. Teams are adjusting. Teams are figuring out good skill position players, top wide receivers in this league, and paying top dollar for them is profitable and gives you long-term value, long-term return. Your quarterbacks get better because of it. Quarterbacks playing better means your team plays better. Your team plays better. Your team gets a good spot in the playoffs and a chance at a Super Bowl. We've seen it too often And I think last year was the headline last year. Top wide receivers left teams, their new teams got better because of them. The teams that lost those receivers got worse. The only team that it didn't affect at all was Kansas City, but Kansas City has the greatest quarterback that I have ever seen in my lifetime. And that is the best quarterback right now in the NFL, and it's not even close. But not everybody's Patrick Mahomes. Even Lamar Jackson, who I love. Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. These guys are not Patrick Mahomes. You can't have that way of thinking. Kansas City can get away and is going to have a tough time getting those types of players because they have to pay their quarterback top dollar. But you can do that because Mahomes, he's the best. Other teams, even Cincinnati, can't afford to not get top receivers. And we love Joe Burrow. Everybody loves Joe Burrow. Jalen Hurts, love Jalen Hurts. I think he's a special player, and he has proven me wrong every step of the way. You need wide receivers for him. You need wide receivers for Josh Allen. Needed Stephon Diggs. Justin Herbert, I think, needs more speed, but it helps he has Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, but I think even he needs an upgrade at wide receiver. Jacksonville just got Trevor Lawrence, Calvin bleeping Ridley. We have seen the benefits that quarterbacks have gotten from these receivers. Baltimore needs to invest. And I'm hoping that after that kind of tweet, again from senior NFL reporter for Yahoo, Charles Robinson, says the structure of Lamar Jackson's deal with the Ravens should open up a shot of facilitating a trade for Cardinals wideout DeAndre Hopkins. That is the kind of move the Ravens should be looking at. And I like Odell Beckham Jr. a lot. Odell Beckham Jr. is coming off of major ACL surgery. He has not played in a year, did not play all of last year after getting injured in the Super Bowl and a torn ACL in the Super Bowl. Odell Beckham could not be relied on as that guy. And I thought it would be a mistake to do so. But now, if they do the right thing and they can get a DeAndre Hopkins and get him a top wide receiver the same way that Cincinnati did with Chase, the Eagles did with A.J. Brown, the Bills did with Stephon Diggs, that it's going to make Lamar Jackson better. And then you look at their receiver group where it's Rashad Bateman, it's Odell Beckham, and it's DeAndre Hopkins. Well, that right there is the best wide receiver group Lamar Jackson has had. And it's very easy to believe and should be looked at as a good enough wide receiver group to make Lamar Jackson one of the top quarterbacks in the league yet again. If you think he hasn't, I don't think it's because of him. It's because of the team built around him. The Ravens have not been a good organization. The Ravens have not adjusted to the times. John Harbaugh is a guy who almost was fired before Lamar Jackson showed up. Greg Norman's offense was a child's offense. Where I'm seeing every single week that Greg Roman offense being broken down and saying there were fundamental flaws where they don't have checkdowns or hot reads. That's the type of offense Lamar was playing in. But they can get away with it because Lamar's a great player. They're finally doing right by Lamar. They're paying him. They're changing their offense to make it better for him. And they're actually getting the right skill position players for him to succeed like every other top quarterback in this league. I'm hoping the Hopkins deal is done because if it is, that Ravens team is going to be scary good. And that offense could be back to being one of the top in the NFL yet again. Tuned in to the Daily Ticket, Fox Sports The Gambler. My name is Jon Jansen. Follow me at JJansen34. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at FoxPHL Gambler. Also, you can watch along on the YouTube channel and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Fox Sports The Gambler. Coming up tonight, 8 o'clock, it's going to be Green Legion Radio. They're going to be on at 8, live throughout the NFL draft. I don't know how long they're going to go, but they're at least going to be on for the Eagles to make the pick at 10, and I'm sure on after that as well. I don't think we're going to get the pick number 30. We're going to go all night but Green Legion Radio is tonight, 8 o'clock. Quimby, Chris Sack, hopefully no Mike Diaz, Kyle / Nunamaker there as well. It's going to be a great time. Green Legion Radio. And also, can't forget the star of the show. I can't believe I forgot this. Eagles legend Irving Fryer will also be on the show as well. So live draft coverage tonight on The Gambler, 8 o'clock during round number 1. Coming up next, we do have some games going on at the moment. Obviously, NFL draft on tonight. We'll update you on possible rumors, but it looks like right now the big thing, the big news item, Lamar Jackson signing a 5-year deal with the Baltimore Ravens. The deal makes him the NFL's highest paid player, even over Jalen Hurts, who got a 5-year, $255 million deal. So the Ravens are paying him just a bit more than Jalen Hurts. And I think that is a fine contract for me. Let me know what you think. Again, at Fox PHL Gambler. Also follow me at JJansen34. Coming up next, we do have some live games going on right now, and we have some baseball on tonight. I do have one bet that I'm looking at and potentially another on the board for tonight's slate. That's coming up next here on the Daily Ticket.
Getting you ready for all of the weekend's action. It's sports here, there, and everywhere with Dick Girardi and Mike Kern live from the Parks Casino Sportsbook.
I'm just glad because Embiid probably should have been tossed. Right. But Nick Claxton, I'm glad he got a technical because you can't do that.
Yeah, what do you
like? He was definitely showing him up.
What is that idiot doing? My man, you just scored. You're having the game of your life. And let's preen in front of the
It's
MVP.
all about who has the biggest whatever.
Yeah,
That's
no,
all it's
I don't.
about.
I don't get why there are players trying to be too much like back in the day with Dennis Rodman or guys who are these enforcers. Because Dylan Brooks is doing it without any respect, and honestly, it's a little. Because I guarantee you, at the end of the series, if the Lakers win that series, you can go, LeBron's a great player. So, okay,
Dylan Brooks isn't good enough to do that.
Exactly. And then Nick Claxton, the same way, he's doing on this. Why? And it hurt his team at the end. To be honest.
If you're listening to this, your weekend is already a winner. It's sports here, there, and everywhere with Dick Girardi and Mike Kerr, live from the Parks Casino Sportsbook. This is your Thursday Sports Minute, brought to you by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks.
Well, we only got one NBA playoff game tonight, but we got a lot to cover. Celtics up 3-2 on the Hawks. Game 6 in Atlanta, and Trae Young is coming off that heroic 3 with 2 seconds left that extended the series. In his last 3, Young has hung 32, 25, and 38 on the Celtics. His total tonight, 27.5. How about Jason Tatum, averaging just under 27 per game? Struggled big time on Tuesday, just 19 points on 38% shooting. His total tonight, 30.5. That's for the game. Celtics won Game 4 in Atlanta. They are road favorites again, with the Hawks getting 5.5 points as home dogs. The total, 231.5. One NBA playoff game tonight, but just a small sample of all the action you can get after.
BetMGM is the king of sportsbooks. Download the app today and use code MINUTE. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to have fun and play responsibly. BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 plus to wager. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Eric was way behind on his taxes.
I owed a lot of money to the IRS, almost $15,000. I tried to make payments.
The IRS wasn't satisfied with Eric's efforts, so they came after him full force.
They're coming to put a lien and a hold on all my income, my home, my car. I was just overwhelmed at what to do.
Then Eric called Optima Tax Relief.
When Optima Tax got involved, the calls would stop, the threats would stop. It was easy like 1, 2, 3.
Optima Tax Relief is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, and their team of expert tax professionals took care of Eric's problem.
I owe $15,000, and now my debt is clean. I don't owe anything.
Take Eric's advice.
If you have a tax problem, you need to call Optima Tax now.
Call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Listening to this station on your free iHeartRadio app could put $5,000 in your pocket.
No way! Are you kidding me?
Open your app and search this station to be instantly qualified for the cash.
Yay!
Thank you so much.
Download the free iHeartRadio app for all the music, radio, and podcasts you love.
Zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage. Changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Pennzoil Platinum can help your engine get more miles. Right now, You can get 5 quarts with an STP extended life oil filter for only $37.99. Get started on your next job today with the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Discover credit cards do something pretty awesome at the end of your first year. They automatically double all the cash back you've earned. That's right. Everything you've earned doubled. The cash back from trips, restaurants, all doubled. Seriously though, see terms and check it out for yourself at discover.com/match.
Cloudy with some patchy fog and even some drizzle developing overnight. Easterly wind 5 to 10 miles an hour. Low temps in the 40s to near 50 degrees. And Friday, not the best of days by any stretch. We've got a raw east wind coming in off the Atlantic, 10 to 20 miles an hour. Rain will start breaking out mid to late morning from south to north. Steady heavy rain by the afternoon and high temps only in the 50s. I'm meteorologist Adam Joseph with your 6ABC forecast.
This report is sponsored by Taco Bell. OMG. Hot and crisp nacho fries are back at Taco Bell, but they won't be here forever. Yeah, hot and crisp fries covered in bold Mexican spices with a side of nacho cheese sauce are only here for a limited time at participating U.S. Taco Bell locations for a limited time only while supplies last.
The breaking news out of the NFL right now, Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens have agreed to a new 5-year deal that is going to make him the highest paid player in the NFL, even over the newly signed Jalen Hurts. I do want to add to that because we just talked about it before the break. I will get to my one Major League Baseball bet for tonight. So Lamar Jackson was getting criticized over and over and over again for wanting too much money, for not signing a deal, for not having an agent. The agent would have gotten him a deal that he would have liked, or at least would have given him realistic expectations. Waiting for so long was hurting him. Lamar Jackson was doing this all wrong. What now? Was he wrong? Did Lamar Jackson do the wrong thing? Did not having an agent hurt him? Because the end result I see is a player who just signed the most lucrative deal in the NFL right now. He is the highest paid player in the NFL. So how did Lamar Jackson do in these negotiations? To me, he was right to wait. He waited till Jalen Hurts got paid. He waited to show Baltimore where the market was at. Baltimore saw it, paid him more. Jackson did everything right here. And I think that does need to be said after all of the criticism that was thrown this guy's way. People don't like this guy. I don't know why. They don't want to give him the credit for being an actual good pocket passer and the fact that he has been a better passer, and I think it was playing his best football this previous season before he got hurt. I understand if you want to throw out the injury concerns. I get it. But a lot of the issues that have been surrounding Baltimore have nothing to do with Jackson. It has everything to do with the kind of team they have put around him. So Jackson had every right to wait, every right to ask for a boatload of money. He got a boatload of money. He got the best contract in the NFL right now. So I will ask again. Was Lamar Jackson wrong for not having an agent? You can answer me that question at JJansen34 at Fox PHL Gambler. I do have one game tonight that I like. The Baltimore Orioles taking on the Detroit Tigers today. Detroit Tigers 9-14. They've actually been playing better as of late. They just won a series against Milwaukee. but they still aren't hitting well. So their lineup has been one of the worst in baseball. They won games against Milwaukee 4-2 and 4-3, and then ended up losing the series finale 6-2. They aren't scoring a lot of runs. Baltimore can't stop scoring runs. Their slugging is up to 419, which is almost 100 points higher than the slugging for Detroit. And their on-base percentage is almost close to 100 points higher than Detroit's on-base percentage. The team ERA for Baltimore is better than Detroit. Now, Baltimore does have some issues with some starting pitchers. Their bullpen has been excellent. Felix Bautista has been great. And they have their probably best starter, one of their best starters on the mound. He's 4-0 so far this season. 3.60 ERA. Some of the metrics aren't favorable for Kyle Gibson, but they aren't as bad as you would expect. Kyle Gibson's been good. He has a whip of 1.17, giving up only 26 hits and 9 walks in 30 innings pitched. He's one of the better starters for Baltimore. I think you can put a high price tag on him because of the lineup that hits behind him, and especially going up against the Detroit Tigers, who were throwing out there Wentz. No, not Carson Wentz, but Joey Wentz, who has a 7.56 ERA, 0-3 this season with a 1.50 whip. The last time he faced Baltimore, 4 innings pitched, gave up 5 earned runs. It's his worst start of the season. Kyle Gibson won that one, 6 1/3 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 11 strikeouts. So this is the same exact matchup we got last time these two were on the mound. Different spots. Detroit was 7-12, Baltimore 13-7. That has now changed a little bit. Baltimore getting good, 16-8. But Detroit now, they're starting to win more, 9-14. The lineup's too good here. Kyle Gibson is favorable in this pitching matchup. I'm getting a matchup that was 5-1 last time, and Baltimore has some more room for even improvement against Joey Wentz. They've seen him once. Now they see him again. I think matchup advantage goes to the Baltimore Orioles lineup, and I think plus 112 for the run line, a good number to take them out. You can go with the money line, minus 150. It's a little juiced up, though. I'd rather get the plus money on the run line. Feel like that's better value with the Orioles lineup here against Detroit. So I like that number, and it is the one baseball play I have for tonight. Coming up in the next hour, I asked him to come on for a segment. He says he has enough just NFL draft talk for an hour. We obviously have even more to talk about. Obviously, we could talk forever with Joe Tansey. He's going to join me next. You can follow him at jtansey90. You can follow his work at Bleacher Report, also the unionblog.substack.com. He's going to join me next. Union, not a great result in the first leg of Champions League against LAFC. We'll go over that. And, of course, NFL draft. Who do the Eagles select? Who does he think is going to be number 2 selected for the Houston Texans? We'll ask Joe Tansey. All of that coming up next here on the Daily Ticket.
Dan Patrick, 9 to noon.
Brett Brown joins us.
Colin Cowherd from noon to 3.
The Sixers are amazing.
And the Daily Ticket with Sean Brace from 3 to 6 p.m. Only one place you can find that.
All ears to it.
Right here on Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. Now, total traffic for Philadelphia.
Jammed up on Schuylkill eastbound 476 into Belmont, and again Montgomery to South Street. Westbound's crawling past Young to Girard, then jams Montgomery out to Belmont. Vine Expressway, that's jammed both ways, end to end. 95 northbound, stop and go Broad Street to Bridge Street. Southbound's jamming Penn's Landing into Broad, then again the airport to the Commodore Barry. Blue Route northbound, stop and go from 95 to Route 1. Southbound jams Broomall into Media Swarthmore. Through New Jersey, 42 southbound jams the Walt Whitman Bridge down to 295. Stop and go on 295 southbound from 30 into 42. Brendan Joseph, Total Traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. At Lowe's, pros can save on the brands you trust. Right now, save up to $50 on select tough-built products. Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. Must ask cashier to apply discount at time of purchase. Online discount is automatically applied in cart. Discount taken at time of purchase, valid through 5/5.
It's Spring Black Friday at the Home Depot, which means it's time to get your outdoor spaces ready so you can enjoy more this season. Right now, you can get the Stylewell Park Point 4-piece patio set at a new lower price of $399. With its stain-resistant cushions and modern relaxed styling, it's the perfect centerpiece for your porch, deck, or patio, whether you're looking for sunny lounging or evening gathering. Hurry into the Home Depot to get the Stylewell Park Point patio set at a new lower price, just $399. Shop Spring Black Friday savings at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
Jake from State Farm here to answer your what ifs.
What if I need a policy, but I just can't choose?
An agent can help you choose. At State Farm, we're there for your what ifs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or go to statefarm.com for a quote today.
Stay tuned to Fox PHL The Gambler for the latest CEOs you should know.
My name is Roy Lightstein. I'm the CEO and president of Legacy Treatment Services.
Every day in business is a big day. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Are you a business owner, CEO, or responsible for marketing? If you are, iHeartMedia can help you reach your goals and find new customers. We reach more consumers in your target area than anyone else, and we can give you access to those potential customers more cost-effectively across radio, digital, podcasting, and social. We'd love to show you how iHeartMedia can work for you. Get started today at iHeartAdvertising.com. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
Progressive presents an ad from Mom.
When you bundle your home and auto insurance with Progressive, bundle, that's a cute word. What? Read it again. Okay. When you bundle your home and auto insurance with Progressive, you get round-the-clock protection. Oh, that's darn good. Because once my older sister Dottie, her basement flooded.
Get round-the-clock protection when you bundle and save with Progressive. It's easier than getting your mom to make this radio ad. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discount not available in all states or situations.
Finding great people to hire can be like trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Their powerful matching technology delivers so many qualified candidates, it's like finding a needle in a needle stack. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. For less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. At ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
Of course I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to clean tough messes off my stovetop and bathtub. But then I discovered I can also use it to easily clean my patio furniture and even my shoes. I'm hooked.
And when wipes won't cut it, I use Magic Eraser Sheets. They're thin and flexible erasers, perfect for everyday messes, like gunk on my counters and sinks. They really are magical.
The reviews are in. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and Sheets make cleaning look easy.
Are you hungry for the inside scoop of women's soccer? I'm Sam Mewis. And I'm Lynn Williams. And we're professional soccer players, best friends, and the hosts of Snacks, the only women's soccer podcast hosted by active players that gets into the most recent news, gossip, and fun of the NWSL, the women's national team, and the delightful, delicious world of snacks. It's a weekly show that features great guests from the world of women's soccer, recaps and previews of the biggest matches, and the two of us hanging out with you. You can listen to Snacks on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Your home for Villanova basketball is WDAS and WD273. Now's your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website, Bills. That's Bills.
Enter now.
You heard the man. Get over to foxphlgambler.com and enter the keyword for your chance to win $1,000. Once again, foxphlgambler.com.
Holding me back, gravity's holding me back. I want you to hold out the palm of your hand. Why don't we leave it at that? Nothing to say.
It is the third and final hour of the Daily Ticket, and we got a good final hour ready for you. I thought I could contain him to one segment. I don't even know how I'm going to contain him to an hour. We got plenty to talk about on the Daily Ticket today. His name is Joe Tansey. You can follow him at JTansey90. Check out his work at Bleacher Report. Also puts things over at foxphlgambler.com. Also subscribe to the unionsoccerblog.substack.com and check out the Union Soccer Podcast. That's a lot of stuff. He does a lot of things, covers a lot of sports, and there are plenty of things to talk about for tonight. I will start off in the NBA, though, Joe. I haven't given out any plays at all in the NBA for tonight. It's only one game. Celtics, Hawks. Celtics on the road, 7-point favorites, a chance to close out the series tonight. Any plays for tonight's matchup?
Well, I'm glad I'm finally allowed back on the Gambler airwaves. I know once college basketball.
Why has it been so long? Yeah, what's going on? Why not enough? There's been no Joe Tansey recently. I don't get it.
Because when Sean Brace is hearing my voice every day for about 6 weeks during
need to take a month off
season, I get it. He needs to take a break from me. I'm a lot to deal with in my nonsense. And then don't play it off like you can't contain me. I was the one who just said in our conversation today, hey, I could talk about even the NFL draft for an hour, and you're like,
Why
okay.
not? Why not?
Yeah. So this was your decision. So I mean, look, to start with the NBA, first off, in Toy Story, the aliens in the vending machine, they say,
Who could forget him?
We are eternally grateful.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Trae Young. He's done a complete 180 on how the Philadelphia fan base feels about him, because he's prolonged the series and allowed Joel Embiid to get even healthier. So I think that's just the biggest thing here. Look, I don't know if he can do it again, but I also said that about Jimmy Butler. And I mean, that was incredible last night, and incredible the entire series. So the way I kind of lean to these things is in playoff games, and it ends up being the same thing for hockey as well. The teams that absolutely need to win, I trend to go to their players even more, because the Celtics, yes, they don't want to go to a game 7, but they're not feeling the desperation yet. The Hawks have already. So I think it's a no-brainer that you got to go after Trae Young at 27.5 points. It's his moment. That's really all I kind of have to say about this. He's going to, jack up a ton of shots. 30-plus points at plus 110 as well seems like a no-brainer. And then I think the other way you look at this, you have to go with the stars. You have to go with the guys are going to be on the floor at a very, very constant basis. This isn't a game for role players. And DeJounte Murray's got the extra motivation because he was suspended for that boneheaded altercation with the ref. So the way I look at DeJounte Murray is I don't think he's going to score as much as Trae Young, but I do think he will be their number 2 scorer. And the way I kind of look at him is with rebounds and assists. He's averaging 7.3 rebounds and 5.8 assists in the series. He's constantly been at that 6 and 6 number. His combo for rebounds and assists is 11.5 at minus 110 over at DraftKings Sportsbook. So that's the way I'm going with it. I think you can, if you were to do the risk-free same-game parlay that we have, let me cook up that number for you real quick based on those props. But yeah, I think that's kind of the way to go. You target Trae, you target DeJounte Murray, and really anybody who's going to be on the floor for 30, 40 minutes tonight.
Any read on or lean on who could win this game? Are we going to see a game 7 or the Celtics moving on?
I think the Celtics eventually pull this one out, but I do think it's going to be close. The Hawks have put in a ton of fight, and what were they? They were a double-digit underdog in Boston without DeJounte Murray, and ended up coming out on top. So yeah, I think it's going to be. I think Boston does win this game, but I think you're going to see an incredible fight from Atlanta at home. And to put this into play here, since I like Trae Young, since I like Murray as well, if you do the risk-free DraftKings Sportsbook same game parlay today, Trae Young 30 points and DeJounte Murray 6 rebounds, 6 assists, pays out a cool plus 600. That's the way I'll be playing this game.
It looked like Boston was just going to cruise to a series win, and the Hawks are making it a close series. And as you just said, you're anticipating a close game. Is that saying more about the Hawks being pretty good and figuring things out? I know Sean Barnard, I talked with him, he's saying they're kind of figuring themselves out here. Or is this a bad sign for Boston that they might be running into some trouble here and they're not playing their best basketball?
I think it has more to do with the Hawks. The Celtics, they should have won Game 5. Like there's no reason they should not have won Game 5, especially with Murray being out. But I think they maybe got a little complacent at the end of the fourth quarter. I still think the Celtics are incredibly good, and I do think they'll win this game. But I think the series still being alive says more about the Hawks than it does the Celtics, because I mean they've had to fight tooth and nail for just anything in this series. And Trae Young's come up clutch. But I do think if the Celtics at their best can end this tonight. Look, as a fan, I want the Hawks to win because then it gives us a little longer extension into how Joel Embiid's recovery is and puts a little extra stress on the Celtics.
It does. Does the Celtics struggling against the Hawks? Obviously, it does something for Embiid because he can rest. But does it make the Boston Celtics feel vulnerable here enough that I wouldn't put the Sixers as a favorite or think that they are going to win the series because Boston has such good history and recent history against them. But does this put into the Sixers' mind, these guys are kind of vulnerable right now?
I think if anything, it's a motivational thing for the Sixers. I don't think it means anything for the Celtics.
Yeah.
But we know they're a really good team, and winning playoff games is remarkably difficult. So I think it's more of a mental chip for the Sixers. So look, this team is vulnerable, and if there is a weakness, it is down low. I mean, heck, Blake Griffin played some extra minutes off the bench down in the paint in Game 5. Was that to start getting him in the rotation to deal with Embiid? Who knows? But yeah, it's going to be. I think this is more beneficial for the Sixers. The Celtics know who they are, but if you're the Sixers, you got to think, okay, this gives us an extra game of game film to see what they're doing and what intricacies in the playoff rotation they have. So yeah, I think it can only benefit the Sixers.
Talking with Joe Tansey. You can follow him at JTansey90 just to get some more bets out of the way before we move on to any Major League Baseball plays tonight.
No, my sole focus, not sole focus, but most of my focus is on the NBA and the NFL draft. I just can't. There's very few.
No home run props. I was hoping some home run strikeout props from you. Total basis props.
Absolutely nothing on baseball tonight, just because Thursday's a weird day too, because half in the day, half at night, and a lot of the teams are off. So yeah, Thursday's usually the off day for me on baseball.
All right, so real quick, the breaking news in the NFL is Lamar Jackson getting the deal. 5 years, looks like $260 million reportedly, and over $180 million guaranteed for Lamar Jackson. Your reaction to Jackson's deal?
That's awesome for him. Like, good on him for getting paid. Like that's honestly how I feel about it. I know there's been a lot of discourse about pretty much everything and every little detail about these negotiations, but good for him. He got the deal. Baltimore couldn't let him go. Let's be honest with ourselves. Baltimore could not let him go. And we've gotten to the point now where maybe they were waiting for a market setter with Hurts. Who knows what was going on behind the scenes? But I think Baltimore was smart to get this done before the draft, have all their business done, and now can focus on gearing up. And this kind of goes into tonight: are they part of the wide receiver run?
Well, DeAndre Hopkins has been, Charles Robinson at least, noted that the deal is structured so they could have the option to get DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm just saying, maybe there is a chance here that Baltimore can do right for Lamar at least once in his career and get him a good wide receiver. I know Odell Beckham Jr. is good, but he's also coming off a torn ACL, and he's not a number one wide receiver. DeAndre Hopkins would be that guy. So it's going to be interesting to see if Baltimore is able to pull that off. Let's get into the draft, though. You have done a ton of draft coverage for Bleacher Report, doing a bunch of things. So it's only appropriate that we do our extensive draft coverage with you in the final hour here. So let's get started. Number 1 overall pick. Seems like it's going to be Bryce Young. The draft is going to start in pick number 2 with whatever decision Houston makes. What decision do you think Houston is going to make at number 2?
Look, what I would do is I would take CJ Stroud, because you can't justify going in with Davis Mills, Case Keenum going
Can't do that.
No,
come on.
But here's where, and this is where Houston could probably get too cute with things. What's the situation going to be at 12? Right? I think that's kind of, if you're inside this Houston draft room, that's what you're weighing, because we know DeMeco Ryans is a defensive guy. he's an Alabama guy too. So does that connection lead to Will Anderson? The connection's been made to Tyree Wilson because of his body size, and it's similar to what San Francisco thrived with. You can't get one of those players at 12. Now, the risk you take if you take a defensive guy at 2 is you might have to trade back into the top 10 to make sure you get your guy at quarterback, because I don't think anyone knows the Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, and Hendon Hooker situations. And I mean, that's why speculating and talking about the draft is so fascinating, right? Because Houston, for the last week, the reports have been out there that Stroud might not be their guy. And what happens if that's the case? And then it's the trickle-down effect. Does somebody trade up to number 3? Arizona's been mentioned in trade conversations for how long? A lot of mock drafts have the Colts taking Will Levis. So like, how does Stroud dropping to 4 affect their decision? Like, all of these things we talk about, it really is like the greatest hypothetical sporting event, because we've sat here for weeks and months and discussed all these hypotheticals, and they've all been different. And now we're at the point where it's either going to be Stroud or a defensive player at 2. What happens with Arizona at 3? And then which one of these teams in the top 10 just goes out of left field? Does Seattle take a quarterback? Does Detroit take a quarterback? Does Tennessee at 11 think they can't get a quarterback and trade up? Like, it's fascinating. There's so many wild cards in this draft, and that's what makes it really fascinating.
Talking with Joe Tansey. Follow him at JTansey90, talking NFL draft. Number 2 overall pick, I think, is where things get started. Let's say, go over these scenarios, because scenarios are going to be great. Houston does take C.J. Stroud. There are a handful of teams that are looking to trade up. A lot of those teams, not really that quarterback dependent, at least one of them, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. If Will Anderson's available 3 and the Cardinals seem like they want to trade back, is there an opportunity for somebody to trade up? What are the trade-up scenarios for you in the NFL draft? Because it doesn't seem like a lot of teams want to, but there are a handful of teams that do. What would be the scenario that you could think of that a team would end up eventually trading up in the draft?
I feel like I have to draw a flow chart in my head here.
Yep.
With these three situations. All right, so we'll start. So option A is C.J. Stroud. So if the Texans take C.J. Stroud, then it becomes very apparent that Arizona should probably stay at 3 and get their choice of Tyree Wilson and Will Anderson, and then the Colts take Levis or Richardson. Sounds like it's Levis. Who knows? Jim Irsay is kind of an unpredictable guy. And then Seattle takes Wilson or Anderson, and your top 5 seems very clean, and all this chaos we've been talking about for weeks upon months just peters out into absolute nothing. The second situation is Will Anderson. So Will Anderson's the number 2 pick. So then does that go Arizona 100% will trade, or will they go after Tyree Wilson? Because they don't need a quarterback. That's fascinating, because it feels like if the only non-quarterback there to pick would be whoever's left over of Wilson and Anderson. If it's Tyree Wilson, I think the same thing kind of applies, but do teams have Will Anderson rated higher than Tyree Wilson? How does that work out? So it's fascinating, but I really think it's dependent on what the Texans do. Because if you're the Cardinals at 3, look, I know their roster is garbage, and they don't expect to contend. But if you can get Will Anderson at 3, that's a hard proposition to pass up, unless Tennessee kind of backs up the Brinks truck. Because if you go through this draft board, how many teams beneath 10 A need a quarterback, but also B have the ammo to trade up to 3? And I think that the only team that fits that billing is Tennessee.
Should Tennessee do that?
They have a new GM, so I can't rule that out. But there's also the situation where, connect the dots all over the place. Mike Vrabel, Ohio State guy.
Makes sense. That's a good start.
this is where your brain just runs rampant with possible scenarios. But if say that's the case, say Houston takes Anderson or Wilson, does Tennessee say, look, I know all of the CJ Stroud concerns, but you watch him play, and I mean that semifinal against Georgia, he was phenomenal. So like, is that just we're taking him because he's the best player? We can make a trade. We don't trust Malik Willis, and Tannehill's on his way out, because Tennessee could very quickly go into a complete and total rebuild. They're kind of showing signs of already doing that. So I think that's the team to watch, right? Because Washington, I don't think, has the ammo. Pittsburgh's not going to trade up for a quarterback, and Seattle and Detroit already have 2 picks in the top 20. I think the one wild card, if the quarterbacks continue to drop, is Tampa Bay. Like, they're sitting there at 19, and I mean, say Levis or Richardson starts falling and we're getting towards the back end of the top 10. I think Tampa Bay might be my bold prediction, that Tampa Bay ends up being the mystery team that trades up in the top 10.
That would certainly be interesting. I don't think they want to move into the season with Baker Mayfield at their quarterback position. I would hope that they're trying to upgrade that. It seems like, so Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, that debate, who's better? I think it's Anthony Richardson. I think it's pretty easy for me to say that, but it seems like the Colts, you're talking about fits in these perfect scenarios and getting your brain thinking on all of these possible reasons why. The Peyton Manning connection with Will Levis. Peyton Manning is apparently giving like the blessing of the Colts should get Will Levis. Will Levis fits the type of quarterback that Jim Irsay and the Colts have been looking for. Does it just seem like a perfect match for Will Levis at number 4 with the Colts?
I mean, that's what it sounds like. I don't know if the Manning stuff, how much that matters. You know what I mean? I think
What do you mean? Peyton Manning is Indianapolis. He is the Colts. That's got to mean something.
But does it? You know what I mean? Like I think that's where we get lost in like the whole draft circus, where we've almost spent too much time breaking this stuff down. And like, yes, Peyton Manning probably talks with Jim Irsay and members of the Colts front office, but he's not doing the scouting. He's not involved daily. And because he says, I like this guy, does that mean, who says Peyton Manning is an ace talent evaluator? You know what I mean? So like this you can throw something out and somebody could immediately criticize. Like, that's just how the whole draft news cycle works. It sounds like Levis, by reading all the mock drafts and all the reports, is the pick at 4, which then opens up the Richardson sweepstakes. But I think that the fascinating question I would ask at number 4 is if Houston and Arizona pick Anderson and Wilson in some capacity, do the Colts immediately change their strategy and say, CJ Stroud's our guy, forget Will Levis, or are they just so stuck and fascinated with Will Levis that he's the guy no matter what, right? I think that's the ultimate chaos scenario tonight, is Houston and Arizona stay put with defensive players. And the Colts are now stuck with this decision of, well, yeah, we like Will Levis, but we also have CJ Stroud available. And is that something they've, for months, maybe not thought would happen? And then, the trickle-down effect goes, could Levis and Richardson really fall beneath the Eagles? And where do teams get involved there? Is it Tampa Bay? Is it the Vikings? Who makes the next move on this big giant chessboard of the first round that we're dealing with? Like, that's what makes it so fun to talk about, because there really are a million hypotheticals that could just be triggered by one pick.
Who do you think takes Anthony Richardson? Who do you think gets Anthony Richardson?
Man, Seattle.
Oh, Seattle. Okay. Good replacement for a year. Good backup 1 year under Geno Smith.
Right. So put yourself in this hypothetical, because this is all guesswork, and this is why betting on the NFL draft is so insanely difficult, because you can pick the over under on the quarterbacks chosen, but there's a hypothetical where the under hits on the 4.5 because Levis and Richardson drop, and defensive players and offensive linemen and cornerbacks rule the top 10. But there's also a scenario where they're gone in the first 4 picks, and Hendon Hooker becomes the most valuable commodity on the draft board. And then it seems like you're sweating it out for 3 hours. Seattle's interesting. They probably don't go after Levis because of his age. But if you're sitting there and you're like, well, we have Geno for at least a year. We've drafted incredibly well, and you can develop a guy like Richardson. I don't know if they'd go for Stroud, because then I think Stroud might be able to, pull the starting job away from Geno in year 1. But Richardson's a fascinating fit in Seattle because he can develop. A lot has been made about his lack of stars at Florida. If he's able to develop under Geno for a year and then take over, do you do that at 5, knowing you have the safety net of a second first-round pick, and also knowing you trust everyone in that draft room about the successful prospects? Look, Tariq Woolen was one of the stars of the draft class last year, and he was a day 3 pick. So I think if anybody would go after Richardson, might be Seattle, just because they have so much trust in their evaluation.
What player is the biggest wild card in this draft? Either they could be selected higher than you think, selected lower than people think. Who is the biggest wild card?
Feels like it might be Bijan Robinson at this point.
Yeah,
right?
It does. It really does. I've seen him mocked as high as 8, and I've seen him mocked in the teens, middle of the first round. So yeah, it does seem like Bijan.
Because you can say one of the 4 quarterbacks, but in reality, this is it's a quarterback driven league. So if one of these guys starts falling, somebody is going to eventually take the bait. And say one of them falls and no trades are happening, Houston can still swipe one of those up at 12 and feel confident with their draft haul. So yeah, I think Atlanta would be really foolish to take Bijan Robinson at 8. I really do think he's going to be available there for the Eagles, but it's such a difficult thing to go through with running backs, right? Because we've had this internal debate as a fan base for feels like forever at this point, right? Do you take a running back at 10 knowing you have another first round pick, and you have to kind of weigh here. This is the way I envision it, thinking I'm no insider into the draft room. I have no idea what's going on, but here's the way I kind of hypothesize things. You have Bijan Robinson, and then take your pick of an offensive tackle, whether it be Skoronski, Paris Johnson, Broderick Jones, or Wright from Tennessee. Whatever the top 4 offensive tackles are. Offensive lineman, whatever term you want to use, you're drafting Lane Johnson's successor in some capacity here, or filling right guard. Are the second and third tier of offensive tackles, are they as good as the second and third tier of running backs?
No, I know the answer to that.
Because
to me, that's a no.
The answer is no, exactly. Because you find this crop of running backs. It sounds like Jahmyr Gibbs is potentially a first-round guy. Maybe he's there at 30, or maybe you trade a few spots there. But there's a ton of talented running backs in the second to third round, whether it's Zach Charbonnet from UCLA, Tank Bigsby from Auburn, Devon A-Chain from A&M. There's a group of 5 or 6 running backs in the second and third round that you can feel really comfortable with. And the Eagles have had a lot of success on day 2. So yeah, that makes it fascinating for me. I think that's the deciding factor in the draft room tonight. What can you find a starting caliber running back at number 30, or if you trade back to the start of day 2, which I think they might end up doing because of needs elsewhere, or do you pick an offensive lineman knowing you're not going to find the same quality of guy on day 2 or on day 3? That I think is what the decision comes down to. I really do think it's between Bijan Robinson and an offensive tackle. I would be surprised if they go corner. But yes, that's kind of my bold prediction. And if it's not Bijan Robinson, where does he drop? Because that becomes the fascinating conversation. Because if you go up and down this draft order, at Tennessee, they have Derrick Henry, and they have a lot of other needs. Houston might be intriguing for Bijan Robinson, but are they in their whole different dimension of decision making because they took a defensive guy? We don't know. Green Bay, no. New England, probably not. The Jets, no. And then you go Washington, Pittsburgh, Detroit. Maybe Tampa Bay is in the mix there because they need somebody to support whoever their new quarterback is. But it becomes a really quick free for all. Do the Chargers get involved because they know Austin Eckler wants out? But yeah, it becomes a very steep drop, I think, for Bijan Robinson if he doesn't go to the Eagles. I think that's his ceiling, but his floor could be remarkably low because of team need and how teams value running back.
Wide receiver position seems pretty thin this year. So Jackson Smith-Njigba looked at as the best wide receiver in this draft class, and truly only the, I guess you would say, tier 1 wide receiver. Outside of that, you got guys like Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, and even some Jonathan Mingo being thrown in there. How do you think the first round does shake out with these wide receivers, and which one are you interested most to see where they land?
I don't know, but I love Zay Flowers. Like, I know a lot of people did not watch Boston college football.
I know you did.
I did.
We did.
I did. Hand up. I did watch a lot of Boston college football.
Because we are degenerates.
He was,
college football degenerates, Joe Tansey.
But this is where it comes in handy right here, right? Because you know exactly what these players bring. I'm actually kind of happy that a guy like Zay Flowers is a projected first rounder. But I think you can apply kind of what I said to Bijan Robinson with the wide receivers, because it seems like if one goes pretty high, there's going to be a run on them. We see that all the time. But, I mean, there's a realistic chance because, look, I know Smith-Njigba is completely healthy, but you've got to know there's one or two teams that are just like, you know what, we're going to pause on that and maybe evaluate wide receiver, because what happens if he does hurt his hamstring again? You know, who knows what would happen? You know, it's one of the hypotheticals that goes on behind the scenes. So the way my mind works, I think Houston would be smart to take Stroud 2, Smith-Njigba 12, and that is the best pair of moves that can energize your fan base. I mean, who wouldn't want to see that if you're the Texans, right? Like, that is it's such a perfect pairing. I don't know if it happens though, because they're so focused on the defensive side of the ball. So the one other thing, it would be hilarious if Green Bay took a first round wide receiver, right? Because with Aaron Rodgers now gone, and they're like, oh, you know what?
I want him to
After
do
all
it
these
so
years,
bad.
not taking it.
Just send a message to the
Right.
Rodgers. We just wanted to make you mad. We always wanted to take a wide receiver. Not for you, though.
But I think the interesting dynamic with the wide receivers, though, is Dalton Kincaid and Michael Mayer, the two first-round tight ends. How do they get valued by these teams? Like, because if you're at Green Bay, you need a tight end as well. So do you go after Kincaid or Mayer at that point instead of a wide receiver? And then, we have Christian Watson. We're going to go find somebody on day 2. So I think that's how the middle of the first round plays out. Is I'd love to see Smith-Njigba at 12, but then there's going to be a little bit of a drop off, I think, from after the Packers. I do think there's going to be something there where because the Jets don't really need a receiver. The Patriots do, but they have other needs as well. I don't know if Washington would take another one. Same thing with Pittsburgh, same thing with Detroit. So, I mean, I think, going through all these hypotheticals and going into like the mid to late first round, the Los Angeles Chargers might be the team that come away with the most surprisingly good first round pick, because Eckler apparently is on his way out. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen coming off years where they weren't completely durable. They
need to upgrade a wide receiver.
Yes, and they have a bunch of tight ends who are just completely average. Like, do they go after Michael Mayer or Dalton Kincaid? So I think since we're making bold predictions here, one of my bold predictions is the Chargers come away as one of the biggest winners of the first round with whoever they get on offense.
I like that. I like it so much that I'm going to keep you around for the second segment here in the first hour. I want to ask Joe, we'll start it off second segment after this break, the player being overlooked the most for the first round in the NFL draft. We'll get that answer from Joe Tansey coming up next here on the Daily Ticket.
Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. Now, total traffic for Philadelphia.
Jammed up on the 30 bypass westbound Route 100 into 322. That because of a crash. Traffic's directed through. 95 northbound stop and go Enterprise Avenue to Broad Street with a crash in the left lane. Then you're jamming Penn's Landing to Bridge Street. Southbound 95, that stop and go from the airport down to the Commodore Barry. Vine Expressway's jammed both ways end to end. Schuylkill Expressway eastbound stop and go 476 to Belmont, then Montgomery to South Street. Westbound crawling past Young to Girard. Then you're jam Montgomery out to 476. In New Jersey, it's stop and go on 42 southbound, the Walt Whitman Bridge down to 295. 676 southbound jams Atlantic Avenue into 42. Brendan Joseph, total traffic.
This report is sponsored by eBay Motors. You do anything to keep your vehicle happy. Let's make sure it stays running smoothly. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, the right parts are just a click away. When you see the green check, you know that part will fit. Get the right parts at the right prices. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
In this week's Marketers Report, Raja Manar, Chief Marketing and Communications Officer of MasterCard, talks about measurement.
Measuring Sonic and Sonic branding, the principles of measurement are the same, but the parameters that you measure are different. We measured, and what we find is our investment is paying for itself in oodles.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia gives marketers access to the audiences, trusted influencers, and data you need to grow. If you're a marketer, go to iHeartResults.com.
Stay tuned to Fox PHL The Gambler for the latest CEOs you should know.
My name is Roy Lightstein. I'm the CEO and president of Legacy Treatment Services.
Every day in business is a big day. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Right now, spring is at the Home Depot, and it's time to get growing. Whether you're planting vegetables or herbs, or just sprucing up your indoor space with lush 6-inch Vigoro Tropicals, we have what you need to get your season started. Visit your local Home Depot garden center today and shop our easy-to-grow, bigger, bolder tropicals, like peace lilies, dracaena, or ficus plants. Do your spring at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Product varies by store.
You don't need to get personal, like revealing orange juice commercials make you cry, to get the State Farm personal price plan. Just call or go to statefarm.com for a quote. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
CEOs you should know, brought to you by Comcast Business.
Roy Lightstein, CEO and president of Legacy Treatment Services. Legacy Treatment Services' mission is to change the behavioral health and social service outcomes for people of all ages, from surviving to thrive. Legacy Treatment Services provides an array of more than 70 different programs and services to help individuals that have challenges with regard to mental health, addiction treatment, or perhaps they have an intellectual and developmental disability. Individuals in this field often have a calling. When I was growing up, I was the victim of abuse and neglect. I joined the Army and started my career in social services volunteering. I became very close with the young man that I was working with. Nonverbal, had a brain dysfunction. And so I had this sort of aha moment at that time that said, if I could help kids that maybe were struggling or had any challenges like I had, I wanted to commit my career towards helping that. The advice that I would give myself at age 15 is perspective. The sun comes up, the sun goes down. And when we're in those moments, stressing about your grade, your social relationship, I just wish I could look back to me at 15 and say, this is just today, and you can have a significant impact on what tomorrow is going to look like. We invite folks to just head to our website, legacytreatment.org, and you can reach somebody at any time of the day or night.
This episode is brought to you by Comcast Business. Every day in business is a big day. Comcast Business will keep you ready for what's next. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Team Foster raises money to provide service dogs to injured and disabled veterans. Spin, cuddle, and repeat to help us save a veteran's life at Team Foster's Rough Ride Philly event. This 24-hour spin event starts at 10 a.m. on June 3rd at Citizens Bank Park. Park competition and park festival, you can ride for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, or 5 hours. Join or create a team for Rough Ride Philly at teamfoster.org and help save a veteran's life. Again, that's teamfoster.org.
Netflix, Amazon Prime, HBO, Showtime. How many streaming services are you paying for? If only there was a way to track and cancel subscriptions easily. Well, there is. Just download the Rocket Money app. Rocket Money organizes your subscriptions by due date and notifies you when something is coming up. From there, decide whether to keep it or cancel it with just a tap in the app. To find out more about Rocket Money, go to rocketmoney.com/save or download the Rocket Money app from the Apple app or Google Play stores. Rocket Money, the money app that works for you.
Hey man, you all right? Need me to call 911? No, call Top Dog Law. Get top dollar for your accident at topdoglaw.com. Once again, that's topdoglaw.com.
Hear new music first on your free iHeartRadio app.
Hey y'all, this is Måneskin.
Hey, what's up? This is Fall Out Boy.
What's up? This is Mark Hoppus from Blink-182.
It's iHeartRadio.
The free iHeartRadio app is where the biggest stars in the world connect with you. Download it today.
I heard you crying loud.
The first round of the NFL draft is tonight, and we're previewing it right now on The Gambler. Daily Ticket, Fox Sports The Gambler. Follow us at FoxPHL Gambler on Twitter, foxphlgambler.com. And joining me on The Gambler hotline to talk NFL draft is Jon Jansen. You can follow at JTansey90. What network will you be watching the draft on?
I don't have a preference, actually.
Come on. Everybody has a preference.
I don't care. Whatever it's on.
I hate that answer. I hate that's one of the worst answers you've ever given me. Everybody
Honestly,
has a preference.
I don't.
Unbelievable.
I really just want to see like what's on.
So what are you going to be
ESPN
flipping back and forth?
Yeah. No, I do that during the draft. Like if ESPN's in commercial, I'll go to NFL Network or vice versa. And I'll pretty much just stay on that network until the next commercial. Like I just want to have like
that's psychotic behavior. Just stick to one. Just stick to one. You'll get draft coverage. They're going to have the same cover. They're covering the same draft. Do you prefer ESPN's personalities, NFL Network's personalities, or any other network's personalities on a program? And you don't prefer any of them. I find that hard to believe.
I honestly could not tell you who's on the draft coverage outside of like Kuiper and McShay.
That's like saying you don't have a preference between Pepsi or Coke. Everybody has a preference. Everybody likes one more than the other. Joe, what do you like more, Pepsi or Coke?
Coke.
Okay. Everybody has a preference. How are you going to tell me in this circumstance that you don't?
I don't. I really don't.
You're unbelievable. I'm never going to get that answer out of you either. You're going to stick to that one.
No, I honestly, when it comes to the draft coverage, I just want as much information in front of me as possible.
Who's the best NFL draft analyst?
Kuiper? I don't know. I guess that's the default answer. I don't have a favorite draft analyst.
You're the worst. How can you not give me one of these answers? Everybody has a preference. I think it's Daniel Jeremiah for me right now.
Why is Daniel Jeremiah so much better?
Because I think his draft analysis is better than others. I don't know if it is better. I just like the way he presents it better than Kuiper and Todd McShay.
Okay. I really don't care.
Wow.
As long as you're telling me who these guys are,
maybe some people prefer you, Joe. Who knows?
I'd be pretty far down the list of preferred for anything.
All right. So I teased this question. I can't believe you didn't give me any answers for either of those questions. That's no fun.
I'm the worst. You know I'm the worst when it comes to that.
are.
Like,
I know.
have,
I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
That's your fault for asking.
I know
that
it is
question.
my fault. It is 100% my fault. But I have to try, Joe. I have to try. I would be not doing my job correctly if I didn't try.
Now, for like other sports, yes. But for the NFL draft, like I don't have a preference.
Who is the most overlooked player you think in the first round right now? Just a guy we're not talking enough about, whether that's because he doesn't play at the positions that we talk about the most, whether it's, getting overshadowed by other players in his position group. But who do you think in the first round is kind of being overlooked here and could be a very impactful day one player?
Myles Murphy from Clemson. This stands out to me. Like, if people are saying he's got top 10, top 12 talent, but he's being mocked into the mid to late first round, that to me speaks of someone who could really be a steal for someone that's in the playoff mix. Heck, I'd love if the Eagles ended up getting him, and
that'd be nice.
I do think they're going to need an edge rusher, but I think there's been a lot of names thrown out at a lot of different positions, but he stands out as a guy that maybe hasn't been talked about enough, as well as, his teammate too, Brian Brisset, who was a top 5 recruit. They were both top 5 recruits coming out of high school. It still says something. You still have to have a lot of talent to be a top 5 recruit. And they went to a school in Clemson that had a very good defense. I know we focus so much on Clemson having a poor offense. Man, this is a team that produced a ton of star talent defensively. And I would not be I definitely wouldn't be mad if one of those two guys fell to the Eagles.
How good is this defensive line group? Because Myles Murphy seems like, as you just said, getting overlooked. There are some guys in the top 10 that we've talked a lot about. Obviously, Jalen Carter, Will Anderson. He's an outside linebacker, but more of an edge rusher. How strong is this defensive line group? Meaning, if a team like the Eagles, who is looking for defensive line, wanted to move back, could they still get somebody worth moving back for and getting some extra picks for that?
From 10?
Yeah.
I don't know, because it feels like the top 3 are very clear cut and in Anderson, Tyree Wilson, and Jalen Carter. And I think where Jalen Carter ends up going is one of the many fascinating storylines. We've mentioned so many different possibilities with Houston. Heck, what if Jalen Carter ends up to the Eagles at 10? No one's saying no to that. There's so many veteran players within the defensive line room that can help with whatever issues are going on there. Look, I think it's those 3, and then I think there is a pretty significant drop off to a Murphy, a Brisset. If you want to include Nolan Smith from Georgia in that group as well, you can. Kalijah Tansey from Pittsburgh is getting a ton of buzz, but it feels like once those top 3 are off the board, we're going to be waiting a while to see a defensive lineman, which could end up favoring the Eagles at 30 or trading up or trading down, whatever the case may be.
Does Hendon Hooker get drafted in the first round? And is there any kind of case study, anything you can remember that's similar to the situation that Hooker is in? Because it's really hard to find one and at least give us some kind of study of what NFL teams might think about his position.
We've seen it with ACLs. We've seen it with age, but the two together, with a 25-year-old with a torn ACL coming off of that, it's very hard to find. So if you're a team looking for a quarterback and you have an immediate quarterback need, is Hendon Hooker your guy? Probably not. But if you're, and this is why I'm convinced he does go tonight, if you're someone between, say, Tampa Bay at 19 and then all the way to the end of the first round, Tampa Bay's got a big question mark at quarterback. Minnesota, do you move on from Kirk Cousins after this year? That's a question you have to ask yourself. And then there's teams at the start of the second round too that could potentially. in the ultimate chaos scenario, Houston, if they don't pick a quarterback at 2 or 12, do they try to trade back up? Do the Raiders look into that? If they take somebody at 7, do they look at using their 38th pick to jump into the first round? I think that's going to be the biggest storyline we see over the next few hours going into the mid to late second round or mid to late first round is where does Hendon Hooker land? Because the one extreme is you get 4 quarterbacks going in the top 10, and the Texans absolutely have to come away from Thursday night with a quarterback, and Hendon Hooker goes 12, and that's it. But then there's a case where he drops and Tampa passes on him, Minnesota passes on him, and then it becomes that game, the dangerous game you play with trades is who's going to take the bait, jump into the late first round and take him. I think that's what ends up happening. I'm going to say with my gut, I think he does get picked, but I think it might be a nervy Thursday night for him because of the injury.
Now, you did mention that there was a team that you think could come away being the best draft, and I think you mentioned the Chargers at that spot.
Mm-hmm.
But what's a team that you think is going to be aggressive, is going to be the sort of highlight, like potential teams that could make those moves, whether it's the Eagles trading up or somebody else that kind of steals the spotlight for round 1? What team do you think is in position for that?
I think it's got to be one of the teams with the 2 first-round picks. And I think it's either going to be Seattle or Detroit, because with Seattle, they've drafted so well where it's hard to ignore what they've done. So I think we maybe fall into the trap with Seattle that we do with Baltimore, where Baltimore always comes away with a great first-round pick, right? Because they drafted so well. Ozzie Newsome did such a great job for so long. I feel like that's how we feel about John Schneider, right? And Pete Carroll. So I think they'll come away with something really good. And I think Detroit, and Detroit became one of the more fascinating teams with the suspensions, right? Because you have Jameson Williams no longer there for at least for 6 weeks. They end up cutting Quintez Cephas, who really wasn't that big of a contributor, but now they need wide receiver depth. They just cut bait on Jeff Okudah and traded him to Atlanta in the offseason. So they have some positional needs that make it really, really fascinating. So I think the default answer is teams that have the multiple top 20 picks. I think the Eagles could come away and be in that category as well. I really do. Because Howie Roseman is now in that echelon of general managers that can do absolutely no wrong.
Talking with Joe Tansey. You can follow him at JTansey90 on Twitter. Last question for you, Joe Tansey. Who is going to be the player that falls the most? The player that is going to maybe make it into day number 2 that nobody expected? Is there a player you think that could fall?
Hendon Hooker. I know I just said all these really good things about Hendon Hooker, but I really do think he's the guy. We're going to be talking about him so much. I don't know if there's anybody out there that's a projected top pick that would do that. I think the only other guy I would think of is Jalen Carter, because there's a situation there where there are a handful of teams that if Jalen Carter starts to drop, they just completely avoid him like the plague because of everything that's happened at Georgia. So I think he is the biggest candidate to drop. I think even if a quarterback falls, I think somebody's going to pick him up, and we're not going to be talking about we're not going to be talking about Jalen Carter into Friday. I don't know if there's a clear-cut guy for that, but at least in terms of a drop, Jalen Carter kind of feels like that guy, right?
Yeah, it did feel like it for a moment there. And then all of it kind of course, the farther we get removed from situations like he had previously with, everything that happened in Georgia, that once they got removed from it, everything was being talked again. Like, this guy is still a top talent, but yeah, maybe there are teams that still have that in the back of their minds of course, for Jalen Carter. Joe, appreciate you for coming on today. I know you haven't been on the Daily Ticket in a while, so while Sean is away, I could sneak you back in on the show, talk some NFL draft, and I appreciate that. I guess last question, Union, was that good, bad result? What do you make of that 1-1 draw for first leg?
It was a C. It was an A+ that turned very quickly into a C+.
It did feel A+. It really did.
Yeah.
One stupid mistake,
which is the grade I hope we come away from tonight's draft with. Bijan or no Bijan, I hope the Eagles come away with an A+.
I hope so. Joe, always A+ when you join me. Appreciate you for coming on tonight.
Bijan or bust, my friend. Bijan or bust.
Okay, well, now I'm going to cut you off. That's Joe Tansey at JTansey90. And that is it for the Daily Ticket. Again, tonight, in just a couple of hours, we will be live again. Green Legion Radio, live at 8 o'clock for all things NFL draft. And, of course, all things Eagles draft. Currently holding the 10th overall and 30th overall picks. Joining Green Legion Radio, Eagles legend Irving Fryer will be on the show as well. So plenty of draft coverage right here on The Gambler. So don't go away. 8 o'clock, Green Legion Radio, right here on The Gambler. Thanks to my guest, Devin Jackson, made his Daily Ticket debut. Does a great job for the Philadelphia Inquirer, talking NFL draft with him. Thanks to him for coming on. Thanks to Sean Barnard, giving us his thoughts on NBA playoffs. And, of course, Joe Tansey sticking around for a full hour. I'll be back for tomorrow's Daily Ticket, 3 to 6. Mark Henry Jr. is going to be joining us, and we're going to be breaking down all things day one, round one of the NFL draft. And I think one of the better days, maybe the best day for some, day 2 of the NFL draft. We'll be previewing that tomorrow on the Daily Ticket. That is it for me. Again, stay tuned. 8 o'clock, NFL draft coverage, Green Legion Radio, right here on The Gambler.
And I don't understand why I sleep all day. And I start to complain that there's no rain. And all I can do is read a book to stay awake. And it rips my life away, but it's a great escape.
Getting to know yourself can be a